All right. Well, welcome back to today's semifinals matches. If you're joining us for the first time, this is the Summer of Legends round two of the semifinals. 6 weeks of Swiss rounds have brought us here. Then we did a cut to the top eight for the quarterfinals. Those matches were held yesterday and the day before. Today we have two semifinal rounds. Earlier today, joining us for commentary today, actually, Joshua Tan won his semifinal match, and he will be heading on to the finals tomorrow at 9 a.m. And today we're going to see zeroskatr12 versus Sojourne, and the winner there will face Joshua. So I'm John, Tommy Elliott, as you may know me in the Discord, and with me again is Joshua Tan and Frank. Say hi, Josh.
Hi.
Hey, everybody. Good to be
And
back.
Frank. All right. So, you guys excited for this?
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is the best weekend of the summer. We've had hours and hours and literally hundreds of matches now, right? Leading or games,
Yeah.
certainly leading up
Almost
to
200.
this moment. Yeah. So incredible. Yeah. Very, very excited. And not only that, this is the second grudge match of the day, right?
Yes, it is
Yeah.
the second rematch of the day. So, John Zero Skitter is definitely going to be looking for some comeuppance for his loss to Sojourne in round three earlier in the match. So, Josh, first of all, congratulations on your win today. How are you feeling right now?
Thanks. I'm just glad I offered to be here because I think after I won my quarterfinal match, I realized this might be my only shot at commentary. And it
Yeah.
turned out to be that way.
It did, yeah. So, well, we're glad to have you here. I know Frank and I are excited to have you.
100%.
So,
And John, congrats to you for picking up the hosting battalion
Yeah.
or baton for the other John who's also playing. That's kind of interesting. The TOs and the streamers and the presenters are doing really well this tournament.
yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of narratives will be decided by this match, right? First of all, we have the rematch of John and Sojourn, and then depending on who wins, we have a whole other narrative for tomorrow. Is it the battle of the tournament organizers, or is it the battle of Singapore? So I think,
Right.
whoever wins, Joshua's gonna have a good time because both narratives are pretty cool for him.
That's right. Josh, question for you: Do you know Sojourn or Shen?
I have not met him yet,
Okay.
but I think given that there are three Singaporeans that got to the top eight, we should have some sort of party next time.
Yeah, for sure. And just we'll switch into using real names moving forward. Josh, am I pronouncing his name right by saying Jan?
Um, yeah, that's good.
That's good. Or you can tell me if I'm doing it
there's
wrong.
some. So in Chinese or Mandarin Chinese, there are different intonations, but when you're just looking at the base sound, it's pretty much there. So I think we're not going to introduce the intonation.
Okay, so we can say Jan, and then afterwards he can come at me and tell me how I butchered his name. Frank, do you have a favorite heading in to this match?
Gosh, the last matchup was so close. It's interesting. Sojourn Shen's been in the scene for a long time. He's one of the first people that I played with online about a year ago, but didn't play in the last tournament and has really come in and just, came. He's the only 6-0 participant in the tournament. And okay, the baked goods match was maybe a little bit of an exhibition, but um, I don't have a favorite. I mean, they're both very skilled players. They're both, very well versed in many different the fighters and heroes, and so I expect a really close and a really long match today.
Joshua, how about
Hopefully
you?
not as long as the round three. That was long. But
That was the stuff of legends.
I'm I think they're both really strong fighters. I know players. So John has been playing a little bit longer. He introduced well when John first started playing online, he was the John. They sound so similar. So Sojourne John was the first person that Zeroskater John played online. I happen to know
He was
that,
actually my
and
first one as well. So he's
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
he's
and
broken a lot of us
Zeroskater
in.
John
Yeah.
was the first person I played online. So more interesting stories.
Wow.
Wow. This is a really interconnected community, and I love that about everything that we're doing. It's so great. So in their last matchup, just kind of looking at last time, Sojourne won 2-0. But John won. He won game one. Dracula's over the Raptors, and then Muldoon and Raptors beat Beowulf. So I think John's probably looking to avoid Beowulf heading into this match. Maybe some PTSD flashbacks, Vietnam style happening. So, do you guys have any thoughts on who he might pick?
On who John Zeroskater
Yeah.
would pick?
Yeah.
Gosh, looking at his picks, so far this tournament, we see he's a big Dracula player, no question. Obviously, his IM is legendary. I'm not sure we'll see that at this level today, but yeah, I guess I wouldn't be surprised. I think we're gonna get one of the auto bans that'll come out first, probably, and then I wouldn't be surprised to see Drac or yeah, maybe Little Red. I don't know. Maybe he's feeling IM today. I guess it would depend. I'm curious if he decided to be. If we'll find out if he decided with winning the coin flip if he's gonna lead or follow.
Right. Joshua,
Yeah.
you play John all the time. You guys they are sparring partners. John says you're his number one practice partner, so you probably know better than anybody his mindset going into this match. Do you have any thoughts on who he might select?
He's been quite versatile. He does a lot of work before the match, knowing what fighters someone's comfortable with. So he would have about 10 different scenarios that might happen, sort of half follower leader. He has a preference going into the match, which one he wants, but it's a coin flip. You might not get your choice. And it's switched depending on the comfort fighters, the comfort picks. I'm not actually sure about John's comfort picks here. So I've played him several times, but not enough to know, and I haven't looked into his stats yet. So knowing what counters, what?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say. I think if you look at his picks, even in the last match, Sinbad, Muldoon, and Raptors, I would say pretty unconventional picks for the tournament in general, right? You don't see
Yeah,
that a lot. And I think he played Sinbad in his quarterfinal round as well.
Well, the interesting thing, and I don't know if we'll see this here, but I know that during the Swiss rounds, Sojourne frequently entered into gentlemen's agreements for no big three. So I don't know if we'll see that happen here, but it was a factor in their last match.
yeah, I don't think they're gonna have it because one of the reasons why the leader follower is balanced is because the leader doesn't get counterpicked, but you have an option to go for two of the big three, which, for anyone that doesn't know, is most of the community agrees Bigfoot, Medusa, and Sherlock. They will argue about who's actually the big three, the pecking order. I think it's sort of a triangle meta where, yeah, they sort of foil each other.
Talk about that triangle meta a little bit more, because John broke that down for me once, and I thought it was fascinating.
It's, again, this is not necessarily big consensus, but some people do believe Bigfoot has a largely winning rate against Medusa. Medusa pushes Sherlock, he's just too powerful, and Sherlock pretty much nullifies Bigfoot. So
Love that.
You can't just assume a big three is maybe your favorite choice. You might have other better picks into a big three fighter.
Yeah. So we know that John won the coin toss. We're waiting to hear the picks and the bans. But in the meantime, just to break this down for anybody who's watching and maybe hasn't watched before, when we're talking about leader and follower, the way that this match will go is somebody is the leader, meaning they get to pick first, and each player will pick back and forth 3 fighters apiece, and then they will simultaneously reveal a ban on one of the other fighters. In order to win this match, it's a overall best of 3, so you will need to win at least 1 match with each of your fighters. So that's kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about leader and follower. The advantage of the leader is picking first, the advantage of the follower, of course, being counterpicks, and then you also get to select map choice for the first round and starting position, which could be a big advantage. Now, statistically, we've seen that there is not an advantage between being the leader or being the follower. It's pretty well balanced. I think John said it's about 50-50 in terms of who wins.
Yeah, it's a bit hard to tell. I can't add some correlation to skill level, but the raw stats seem pretty full for the format.
Yeah. Cool. On that note of how the pick ban phase works, let's move on to a video here that shows exactly how to play.
Unmatched is a card-based tactical fighting game featuring various characters from history, literature, and fantasy. The goal? Reduce the opposing hero's health to 0. Players take turns performing any combination of 2 actions, from maneuvering, scheming, or attacking. A maneuver causes the player to draw a card from their deck and lets them move any of their fighters around the board. They may increase the distance of their move by discarding a card known as a boost. When a scheme card is played, simply follow the text on the card to complete the action. For an attack, the turn player will choose a card from their hand to place face down for combat. The opponent will have the option to place one of their cards down as defense. The value on the cards will determine the damage dealt in combat. Melee fighters can only attack adjacent spaces, while ranged fighters can also attack any space within their color-coordinated zone. Some characters have sidekicks to help them out, and others fight solo. Each hero has their own unique abilities and deck of cards to bring the character to life. Because in battle, there are no equals.
The video gives me chills. It's so cool. Cool. So we did just get word that John was the follower, so now we know he has elected to do counter picks and to get first map choice.
That's right. That's an interesting one. I feel like that's kind of a new strategic element. It's something that we didn't talk a lot about kind of in the previous round in the previous tournament. You know, it was not, probably I would have said most folks would have defaulted to being the leader and trying to grab those big 3 first.
Yeah, I think as the tournament has gone on and we have seen effective ways to counter Bigfoot, I don't want to say Bigfoot has completely fallen out of favor.
Yeah.
But I would say the idea that getting to go first and getting 2 of the big 3 is no longer as desirable, perhaps, as getting the counterpick option.
That's right.
It used to be if you are guaranteed getting 2 of the big 3, you were getting to play one of the big 3, and that could mean an auto win. But I think that it no longer means that as everybody... I don't want to say that the meta has evolved, because perhaps that's not the right terminology, but as we've all caught on and gotten more aware of different strategies.
Right. It's like to your point before, it's just more valuable to be able to counter than it is to actually be able to guarantee one of those fighters.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely going to vary from player to player because some players are comfortable with those fighters that pose problems to the big 3 and others are not. That's an interesting point because yeah, it's easy to talk about what should happen in the game, but none of these players, not even me or these top players, really has time to experience every single matchup, every single fighter. We all have preferences and skills.
It's an interesting one. I know we're kind of waiting for the picks to come in now. With how do you think this will evolve? We know we're expecting the landscape of fighters to double within the next, I don't know, however long, 6, 9, 12 months, whatever it might be with shipping as it is. How do you think that will impact competitive play? I feel like right now we've had a lot of time with the fighters. We've had 2 full tournaments without actually adding any, Deadpool came late and might not even count anyway. So it's been pretty constant for a while.
Yeah, competitively. Go ahead, Josh.
I think it's going to be an arms race. Whoever can find the secrets first and exploit them first will have not a permanent advantage, a temporary one.
Yeah.
And I liken it to chess. In chess, you can work really hard on one opening idea, save it for 5 years, use it once, and by the next round, everyone in the world, at least the top players, have all studied, oh look, there's a new move, and they have a plan against it. So, but then again, if you're in a tournament, say your semifinals or finals, you just need that one secret match, that one win, and it's worth it. So I think it will be you'll see a lot more prep games, a lot more feeling out the water for different matchup, how they feel.
I think the way that we understand matchups now is the most that we will ever understand a current roster's matchup. Just because we've had 7 to 8 months with the current state, and we've been practicing all of these fighters for 7 to 8 months and all of this. But when these new sets start coming, we're not going to have that much downtime between new characters anymore.
That's another great point.
So I think it will be whoever adapts faster. I think it's healthy. You don't want the game to be solved. I don't agree with the claims that even the current format is solved or necessarily geared towards certain fighter picks. I was talking baked in my match. I think once you're pretty much comfortable with picking more fighters, you realize this format can lead down many, many different possibilities, all with valid winning chances.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked your point about it being an arms race from here on out. I think that's really accurate. Whether or not we even get to see these fighters in the next tournament is going to depend, I think, too, on timing. Because if the new set drops, 2 weeks before the next tournament, I don't think just the logistical concept of getting all that stuff scanned in, and we won't see them. So
that's right. It'll be interesting. I think we've also, I think, learned a lot about positioning and about maps and the significance of maps, especially specific to certain matchups over the course of the last few months. I know, introducing to concepts like the Yukon death loop with certain fighters and, other, even Josh, this morning you were discussing the advantages of Sherwood for Robin. I think we'll see the diversity of maps and even new map elements kind of creating new elements of the game. So that'll be another interesting thing down the road, I think, as well.
I mean, even the way we talk about maps now, this morning, and how we'll talk about them today, has evolved from the last tournament and our understanding of the importance of the map in the starting position.
Yeah.
Looks like we're still in the pick ban phase, just waiting to hear on what's going on there.
This might be a harbinger, an indicator for what we can expect in the matches.
I think it is, especially considering Josh brought this up earlier, but their last match was so long. I think that this is indeed an indicator of what we're in for. But these are 2 seasoned pros. They like to take their time and think and weigh all their decisions. And it's the semifinals, so if you were going to see it anywhere, you're going to see it here.
That's right.
A lot on the line. I know John is looking for that win. What was that, Josh?
No, I was gonna say about how long the match goes. It's really the style of the player. I think some people feel better when they can check everything themselves. Other players are more intuitive or just end up overthinking things and prefer not to go down that route. So I myself am a quicker player. Sometimes it hurts me. I think the Baked Goods match, the first time I played him, I played way too quickly. And I just wasn't putting in the mental effort needed with such an opposition. So I think John, they're both slower players. So we'll see more counting, more positioning, repositioning. Yeah.
All right, it looks like pick ban phase is done, and there we go. We've got these fighters loaded in. So we got Sojourne picking Sherlock, Injin, Muldoon, and Bigfoot, and Zero Skater John. He's got Medusa, Dracula, and Little Red. Any surprises, you guys? Any thoughts on bans?
Okay.
I would say no. To answer your first question from my side, no surprises.
No
Actually, I think you
surprises.
might have asked me. I said Dracula and Little Red for John, so maybe I did
did.
call it earlier.
You did.
In the default auto ban. And with Muldoon and Bigfoot, I think probably no surprise there either. I think Muldoon, people would argue that he's could also be considered top tier against certain fighters at least.
Yeah. Josh, any thoughts on who we're going to see banned in this match?
It's gotta be Sherlock and Medusa. I think Red is pretty good in both Ingen and Bigfoot. Dracula suffers a bit against Bigfoot for reasons discussed before. Dracula is great at pulling out feints, but Bigfoot has value 3 feint defense that can't be pulled out. You need an ambush or something to take it out, and that's really down to the luck. So it looks like he's going for Dracula, Little Red into Ingen. If he gets Medusa, Medusa's fine into Ingen, so he wouldn't complain about a surprise ban.
Agree. I would think we're going to see Sherlock and Medusa banned. As a little vanilla, but it's the semifinals. We're going to play what we know.
Exactly.
Is my thought.
It's about nobody's taking a risk right now. I think everyone's stuck with players they're very familiar with. Just looking at interesting, this is only the second time in the entire tournament that Sojourne's been the leader, so he clearly has a preference to be follower. And he has played he's played Muldoon and Ingen 3 times, so in just under 50% of his matches. Not seen him play Bigfoot though at all. Actually, this would be the first time that we would see him play Bigfoot. So.
Oh, interesting.
That'll be interesting.
Oh, and looks like we've got the bans. A surprise Dracula ban.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is where the triangle meta comes in. I think John has a vulnerable point in Medusa possibly losing Bigfoot.
Yeah, this is exactly what you were talking about earlier. This triangle meta that many believe in is Bigfoot does beat Medusa, and John has a lot of wins with Dracula. So maybe the goal is that he thinks. So Sojourne must think that he can take Medusa down with Bigfoot, and is more worried about Dracula.
Actually, I have to take back to my comment about Bigfoot. I think Sojourne has had Bigfoot in one of the. He did pick Bigfoot once.
Okay. All right, and it looks like we've got map bans too. Sojourne banned Sherwood Forest, and Zero Skater John, he banned Heorot. No huge surprise in seeing Heorot banned. Yeah. I will say that statistically, John bans Yukon more than any other map, so I'm surprised not to see that go.
Facing Yukon, but
no.
Okay, both for those of you who don't know. Both Sherwood and Yukon have zones. So when you place your fighters, you start in a certain zone. But sidekicks, the Ingen sidekicks are ranged. So if they can double attack this player 2, from range, and that's something you can't do on any other map. Yukon and Sherwood are unique in that regard. So you can only ban one of them. And I think he just went for whatever he thought was better. I think the Yukon Death Loop is not so painful in given these picks.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Looks like match one or game one is going to be Little Red versus Engine. So, what are we thinking is going to happen here? Can we get a look at the Little Red deck? Let's take a look and break that down. Oh, well, you're going to start with Muldoon. Okay, so Muldoon. Oh, we're back to Little Red. Cool. So, Little Red. All right, so we got a couple of key cards here. So, for those who don't know, Little Red is a really interesting fighter. She symbols underneath her printed card values, and those need to line up with what's in her basket, which is her discard pile, in order for her to get extra special effects. So some key cards we're looking at here are Stones in the Belly, where if you've got the knives symbol in your basket and you defend or attack with this card, your opponent will discard one random card and you add its boost value to this card's value. So kind of like Ambush, but you can use it defensively since it's a versatile. What's That in My Basket is a wild for Little Red. So she can use this to set up her basket, because any card you play after this one, you're guaranteed to get its effect. What's That in My Basket is a really, really good card to attack into feints, because you're getting 2 damage over that feint and no effect is being canceled. So that's definitely something to watch out for on Muldoon's end. What Big Eyes You Have is a really strong card. Immediately, you're going to cancel all effects on your opponent's card, so it's basically a 3-value feint. But in addition to that, if your basket's lined up properly, you're also going to ignore the value of your opponent's card. So if somebody's attacking you with a 6 and you've got that set up, you're taking no damage. Likewise, if you're attacking with this card, you could deal 3 damage over it no matter what the defense value is. What Large Hands You Have is an attack that after combat, you get to return the card back to your hand. This is a great card for Little Red heading into Muldoon. Sometimes people will not defend their 1 health sidekicks, so you could attack with this, get that undefended, kill the sidekick, and get the card right back. Of course, if your basket is lined up properly, you could instead take back the card that's at the top of your discard. One of the cards you could take back leading into that is a Huntsman Scheme, a Grim Tail, that allows Little Red to recover 2 health, but if the symbols are lined up, Little Red recovers 4 health instead. If you line everything up properly, I think Little Red has a max of 16 health recovery. Is that right, guys?
Yes, that's right.
So definitely something to be on the lookout for. Huntsman might be something that you want to do to take him out fairly early to avoid all of that health recovery.
I don't know. Did you mention John that the Huntsman is a ranged sidekick?
I did not. You want to talk about that, Frank, a little bit?
Sure. Just I think another element with red. Obviously, the symbols are key to manage and match up. But the Huntsman is a ranged sidekick with 9 health, so he's also pretty versatile and kind of brings another element to playing against her. For you to be aware of that ranged element that he is.
Absolutely. The one thing going against the Huntsman is his highest defense is a 2. And unlike Little Red, the Huntsman cannot cancel any card effects. I don't think that'll be too huge of a factor against Muldoon, the non-cancel, but it could lead him into trouble in other matchups. Let's take a look at Muldoon's deck. Cool. So we saw Muldoon played earlier today. So if you were around this morning, get ready for round 2 of discussion. So Muldoon is a ranged fighter that sets traps. And in addition to being ranged himself, he has 3 ranged sidekicks as well. So some key cards for Muldoon we're looking at, They Should All Be Destroyed, which is during combat, you add 1 to this attack for each trap token adjacent to the opposing fighter. Commonly called the Prospero move is to partner this card with the scheme on the bottom right there, Call for Backup, which allows you to choose 2 different effects, including placing up to 3 traps, placing all of your defeated engine workers back in Muldoon's zone, or drawing 2 cards. And the Prospero move, of course, is playing the scheme, surrounding somebody with 3 traps, and then playing they should all be destroyed to make your card 7 attack value. In addition to that, we've got Leap Away, which is a 4 value versatile card. If you win the combat, you get to move up to 4 spaces. Which is really big. Muldoon is all about movement, map control. Then he's got I've hunted most things that can hunt you, which is his highest defense. It is a defense-only card. He can't play this like a versatile. Can't attack with it. After combat, he gets to move each of his fighters up to 5 spaces, and they can move through spaces containing opposing fighters. Again, showing off that Muldoon is all about map control and positioning. And lastly here, we've got Rending Shot, which any of the fighters can use. It's a 3 attack that allows you to move the fighter up to 3 spaces afterward. There is no win condition on this card. It's just an after combat effect, whether you win the combat or not. And this, of course, is to move somebody into their traps. Frank, would you want to go over traps real quick?
Sure. So at the beginning of one of Muldoon's special abilities, or his special ability, is actually to, at the beginning of his turn, can place a trap. So a trap is a token that he can either place at the beginning of each turn, or as a result of other card effects or schemes. And when an opponent lands on a trap or is put onto a trap, it fires it. They take 1 point of damage, and Muldoon draws a card. It's an interesting one. Obviously, it's a great way to get damage, and even is used in some of the card effects to increase the value of the attacks that we discussed earlier. But it's also something to keep in mind when you're playing Muldoon. There's probably an optimal number of traps to play, and normally in most cases that number is not all 8 of them. He has 8 that can't be reused. So if you get a little bit too overzealous with traps, generally that will lead to an exhaustion problem at the end of the game. So it's an interesting element. It's another way for him to control the map and to stop. Oh, it's the other thing. So if you're moving onto a trap, your movement stops. So you can kind of keep your opponent at bay, but you also have to be cautious not to overuse them, because generally if you use more than maybe 5 or 6, is my opinion, you'll end up in trouble later on.
Yeah, I would say among the 3 of us, nobody knows better than Joshua about how to take advantage of these traps. Josh earlier today secured his position in the finals by stepping on the traps and causing his opponent Baked Goods to have to overdraw into exhaustion to die. All right.
It was a beautiful move. So
yeah, again,
perfectly
to
executed. Yeah.
Okay, it looks like we are ready to head to the fighters, and they're going to start with their mulligans. All right, here we've got Sojourne and John starting. Oh, we're on Sarpedon, and we've got Little Red in position 1, Muldoon in position 2. They're going to draw, and then they're going to do decide whether they want to keep or mulligan their hand. Now, the mulligan is a brand new element to this tournament. Josh, as a tournament organizer, do you want to talk us through a little bit your decision to bring in the mulligan?
I think one key thing is that we saw it wasn't a big problem, but in the tournament, some people were just getting unlucky with their starts. You could draw no defenses in your 5 cards, and you could just take a turn 1 attack to the face, which kind of kills the game. It's not a guaranteed win, but it is an uphill battle just because of your card draw. At a casual level, you could just call it quits, you could lose, and it's not a big deal. But at this level, to lose a game because of luck, it really shifts things. So we decided to give this option to fully shuffle your hand back into the deck, and you have to stick with what you get. So the mentality behind that is you only use it when you have a bad enough hand that it is unlikely to get a worse hand.
Yeah.
If you have a good hand, you're not going to try to get a better hand. It's not safe enough to try to get ridiculous advantages out of a mulligan.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but key to your decision to adding this was also learning that originally Restoration games had a mulligan in their rules before removing it last minute.
they figured for a casual game it was too fiddly, and I agree. At a casual level, it doesn't really matter whether you win or lose. You just have fun. At this level, it's to provide a safety net that make sure we're actually getting real games here.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense to me. The mulligans do add a new element of strategy before the game really kicks off and goes. So, Frank, you're looking at this. Zero, John, he's little red. He's first position. What do you want to see in that hand?
Oh gosh, what I want to see is John is little red in my hand. I want to make sure I have a few good defense cards. We talked before about the ability to attack, early on, and I wouldn't want to leave that up for risk. Oh, there we go. It looks like Sojourne pulled a mulligan. two call for
that is
backups.
exactly what we're talking about. Wait a minute. It looks like he might not have shuffled. I'm not sure.
So yeah, definitely some good D options, and yeah, I think just something that you have to be able to defend yourself. He's not going to be able to be attacked on that unless he moves into the purple zone automatically. But yeah, I think some strong defense. How about you? I'm not. Admittedly, I had a rough time with Little Red in the tournament. So
there's one card you're looking for as Little Red, and that is Never Leave the Path. It's not one we discussed earlier, but it's a scheme. If you have knives in your basket, you deal 2 damage to all opposing fighters in your zone. If you look at this map, Muldoon is forced to place his workers into the pink zone. So that means on turn 1, Little Red can totally nuke them. One of the key things about Muldoon is his workers get in the way. I know Red has hands, which clears the way, but it buys you time, and if you can wipe them out on turn 1, that will be an uphill battle for John to dig for call for backup and call them back.
So do you think this mulligan we just saw, Josh, is because he's digging for that?
It has to be, because as player 1, you have options. You don't have to go aggressive, and if you don't have the best defense, you could still just sit around, wait for player 2 to choose, do I want to attack Little Red with 7 cards in hand and a wild in my basket?
So I don't remember who John was playing earlier in this tournament, but it was this exact setup where John was player 1 red.
Yes.
On this map, and he did start with Never Leave the Path, killed all of the engine workers, and then it flipped to player 2, who just immediately schemed, called for backup, and brought all of the workers back.
Yeah.
It was a real you hate to see it situation if you were John, love to see it situation if you were player 2.
I still wonder in that case, though, if you can get it out of the way early in the game, right, as opposed to see what he's going to do. He maneuvered for his first one, but if you get get one of the call for backups out of the way early, I don't know, maybe there's an advantage when it comes late in the game. You're
definitely
the probability, yeah, but still really frustrating. Oh.
Here we see John's opening move.
He's thinking, so he might not have it.
Yeah, I think
it would be an automatic if you do.
Right. I agree. He must not have Never Leave the Path to be
Which
putting this thought into it.
It's fine. It's something that could have. Oh wait.
Oh, never
He
mind.
does have it.
He does. All right. Well, starting about as strong as you can is Little Red, I think.
It's the nuke.
It is. Definitely not game over by any means. Sojourne has 2 cards to bring them all back, and that was just turn 1.
So red has a pelt in her basket. Two of the cards that line up would be one of the terrible big mouths you have, which reflects the printed value, and you take that damage as attacker. It's a bounce back and it's powerful. The other one is the lesser one, the Wolf's Pelt, which draws you two cards, but it's card draw. I think you need that against Mulder.
It looks like we saw Muldoon maneuver, just working on some audio issues here. Place a trap and then maneuver, and then looks like a double maneuver.
So he's going to have to get rid of one card here. Instead of maneuvering and attacking, this is an interesting...
He's at 7, yep.
Oh, is he at 7?
Yep.
That's... I don't know how to count, guys. Sorry, viewers.
I've got to think he just doesn't want to attack into the pulp this early, and that's fair. I think you want the workers to take that kind of bounce back damage, or just dissuade red from playing those good cards.
Yeah, you don't want to take too much damage as Muldoon this early in the game. You have no way to recover that health.
As you mentioned with the healing card, you either want to take out the Huntsman to stop red from healing so you can actually deal permanent damage to red, or just rush her. But Muldoon is not a rush fighter. He's not going to take red out before she can heal at least once.
I think we were talking earlier about maps and placements, specifically with this case. We have Little Red in a position where Muldoon needs to get right next to her unless he's going to do a big loop around her to be able to attack. So John's kind of luring him in. I guess the Huntsman is in range right now.
Yeah.
Looks like Sojourne's having some breakfast. And that would be really helpful with the Deadpool set, actually, right?
Food on the table.
That's right, food on the table to get that extra two damage.
So John's making him come to him.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad play considering he's got 7 cards in hand.
Yeah, at this high level, you see a lot of back and forth. How many cards your opponent has in hand can dictate your move, because you know whether the opponent is gonna come at you or just sit back and scheme. Some fighters, you can make them attack. Some you can't bait out. You have to bring the battle.
So he's left red within maneuver range, and he's got the pelt up, so he really must be baiting him to attack so he can use what a terrible big mouth you have, as you mentioned before, Josh.
I think it's also the positioning. He's also defending the Huntsman. If he camped in the green, Muldoon will be able to attack the Huntsman, and he knows it's a 2 because only red can use big mouth. So in doing this, yeah, you see Muldoon couldn't attack the Huntsman on blue unless he boosted a 3 to get to the other spot down there. He's playing that as a pass because there are no workers and therefore no workers with traps.
Hmm.
So in this game, the deck timer is really important. When you run out of cards, you do not reshuffle. You take 2 damage every time you draw a card. So passing or not wasting your turns by maneuvering and discarding is really important at this level. So Remote Detonation is just a card that lets you not draw another card when you choose not to.
It's interesting to see that a pass get used so early in the game. I feel like we're so used to talking about them very late.
Yeah, sometimes it's not an exhaustion tactic per se, but just the feel bad factor of drawing a card and discarding it. You don't want to do that.
Right, and I think look at where John is now too with 7 cards. If he's in a position where he needs to discard or to boost, he's gonna
This
lose.
is the back and forth. He can't. Red's boost values are not enough really to get her to Muldoon. She can't heal or pass. Red schemes are the movement and gain action schemes. And then she has 2 heal schemes, which are useless right now, and another never leave the path, which you're really saving for that call for backup. It's a good read. I think John was hoping to lure Muldoon out, but Muldoon's retreated, and now it's the other way around.
And we see the beginning of long pensive turns enter the match.
Let's do Into the Woods.
Yeah. Okay. Into the Woods.
And I'll go.
That is what he needed.
1, 2, 3.
All right, Into the Woods lets him move 3 spaces and gain in action. Oh, and he's playing both and setting up knives up top. So he didn't even have to maneuver to get all the way over there, and he still has 2 actions.
He could double
left.
attack.
Yeah, he sure could.
Well, it must be noted that Muldoon has a lot of defense with movement, so it's unlikely, but we'll see.
So knives up leads some really devastating options open. He could Once Upon a Time, which deals 3 damage to the opposing fighter after combat. He could Stones in the Belly, which would act as an ambush in this situation.
And if you feint, it could be a 4, but that hurts.
It's like
He
it
played
is
a 4.
Once Upon a Time.
It is 3 damage after combat, and that 4 is basically wasted.
Okay.
Yeah, he played the 4 and still took 3 damage.
Well,
But he
I have
does
one
get to
more
avoid
action, so
a second attack.
I will do a maneuver, I guess. Thinking about my movement.
One thing this double Into the Woods has done, though, is split Red and Huntsman. So you can't body block anymore. I think now is the time. I know Muldoon just took a big hit, but if he can pressure the Huntsman down, that's what he needs to do to win the game. And splitting your sidekicks from your fighters, that's not always something you want to do. It can lead you to tricky situations.
Right. We have seen though a significant amount of damage get laid out with only 4 cards played by Little Red.
It is her auto damage, so it's unstoppable effects damage rather than combat over your defense damage.
I think we're seeing John still deciding what he's going to do with Little Red, right?
Yeah. I want to bring her back. Yep.
It's interesting he's left the Huntsman still vulnerable to Muldoon.
I think I'll
It's
boost
vulnerable,
this maybe
but
and go. What do I want to boost?
the thing about he can take 1 or 2 hits, and he has a value 4 attack that long have I sought you, which doesn't depend on the basket. Instead, if you're adjacent to the opposing fighter, you get it a 6
You know
instead.
what? Go ahead and move those cards, Sojourn, and I'll keep this one card on the
So
side
I
of the basket
think-
the whole time, so you can move the rest
I-
around and not have to worry about switching the order. So like grab those 3, drag them out. Yep, and then I'll put this one back on top of the basket. I'll lock the basket card itself, and we'll keep that current one there, and we'll swap them out each time. Just so we always know which one's actually in the basket, and these other ones can, you know, go over here in a pile. Okay, let's see. How am I boosting?
So John is indeed deciding how to end his turn here.
Yep. I think it's a good call out, Josh, actually, with the Long Have I Sought You. If Muldoon does move up right next to him there in that blue space to attack, he might be set up for a counterattack the next turn.
Yeah, something about this game is win conditions. You need to know what it takes to win. Oh, there it is, but he's using it as a discard.
Is a boost.
Now I can get red. 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4.
That's something you can do to make sure your symbols line up for your turn. It's a deterrent. It makes Muldoon think twice about attacking.
Yeah, those knives up are not something you want to attack into lightly. Because if you're not attacking with a feint, you're running the risk of taking 3 damage after combat again.
Yeah, and as I was saying about win conditions, you need to sort of see what it takes to win. You may not get it, and you may get it in surprising ways, but if you know mathematically what your general game plan, and we know with Red's auto damage with Never Leave the Path and Once Upon a Time, she has 2 copies of each. You can deal 10 damage if you let all your symbols line up. Muldoon cannot heal from 14 to 10. Well, that's 4 left, and you can pretty much find 4 damage somewhere else in her deck.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to stay alive. You have to make sure you get all of that to work, but I think that's John's plan, and we'll see what Muldoon has in store to, well, make Red earn that.
Totally. I think I'm sure Sojourne is looking for that call for backup. It's a big part of his character is to be able to keep melee fighters away with the engine workers.
Red's pretty low on cards. I wonder what exactly John tried to set up there.
Well, he effectively,
The trap man.
yeah, he's used both Never Leave the Paths, right? He kind of, from a card perspective, is like,
No, he used
Double.
2 Into the Woods.
I'm sorry, Into the Woods. Unable to read. One Never Leave the Path.
Yeah.
Both.
Okay, here we go.
Ow.
That's 3 damage.
Oh, that is really brutal. Regroup into Once Upon a Time. He will get that 3 auto damage from the after combat effect.
And my turn, I will go ahead and do a maneuver.
That's a really big win for John there.
Yeah, and the Huntsman didn't even take damage in return.
We've seen Muldoon has only played 3 cards, so we're talking very early into the game, and he is down 8 health from starting. That's that power of the auto damage like you were talking about, Josh.
Yeah.
It's funny, you know red is always capable of dealing that to you, but when it happens early, suddenly you no longer have the advantage of maybe red doesn't have it yet. You can afford attack and push and hope she doesn't draw those cards. But when
Right.
that type of damage happens first, now John has got to be thinking, I can win this. You're no longer thinking I'm digging for my cards. You're thinking I'm just gonna keep attacking. Of course, once he gets cards back in his hand, but I'm just gonna keep pushing him towards that limit. And for a fighter that can't heal, you're never going to get further away from losing.
That's true. So with that Once Upon a Time that he played his defense, he's got the rose petals up, which still spell danger, I think, if you're trying to attack him, because he can play What Big Eyes You Have, cancel all effects, and ignore the card's value.
Yeah, but at least he's not taking damage in return if he uses another card.
That's true.
I think that what he has to worry is that card on offensive, because unless you feign it, that is 3 damage.
Yes.
And if you gotta be attacking with it. No, it's hands.
Oh, he's using hands.
And I'm going to pick back up Once Upon a Time.
He's taking
Oh,
that
and he's
back, which
taking
is
back, which is smart.
yeah, that's a good use for hands now, because again, you're no longer thinking I'm gonna take out the workers 9 times with hands. You're just thinking I'm gonna stop him from attacking me. And now if you attack with feints, you can't defend with feints. You only have 3 feints.
Right. And now he's thinking about where he's going to set this trap. Do you guys think the health disparity changes the boldness that John plays? And you know, on the flip side of that, do you think the health disparity causes Sojourne to play a little more recklessly, knowing he kind of has to fight hard now?
Yeah. I think it definitely played. It's something that's really changed the tone of the game. And again, that's what I say. At this skill level, this health disparity is not because one is a worse player than the other. It's really down the deck at this point when this type of stuff happens.
Definitely. And I don't think anybody would question the skill level of either of these players, especially knowing that Sojourne has not yet lost a match heading into this game.
Yep.
Just goes to show you, anybody can win a game of Unmatched.
That's right. You know, I wonder with Muldoon and with Little Red, like how much is you two being experienced Little Red players? Is it important that your opponent is kind of more on the aggressive side, so that you have less of a, you know, depending on what's in your hand, you don't have as much control over the symbols potentially if you're kind of forced to play, you know, defend yourself.
Yeah, I think there's some merit to that.
There are
Go ahead,
multiple
Josh.
types of aggression. There's rush aggression, where your objective is to run your opponent out of cards in hand so you can land a big blow. Then there's constant aggression, where you're trying to run the opponent out of cards in deck. Like, it wants you out of defense cards in the whole game, not just in your hand. You can just land free blows.
Right.
And Thing about Red is she does fine defensively. She's a bit like Sherlock Counterpunch. You deal a lot of damage on defense.
On defense. Right, but I guess what I was thinking more of is it important to keep that pressure on her so that
Yeah.
you have less
The
control
symbols,
over
yeah.
the symbols, right? You're kind of forced to perhaps play suboptimally just because otherwise you'd be taking
That
too much
is
damage.
definitely something you want in general. But in this case, I think he doesn't have the luxury of doing that. As you can see with knives in the basket again, he could take 3 more damage from Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, he could.
This is where workers really come in. You want them to either stop Red from playing those cards or take the hit.
Right.
It was interesting that given the chance just then, Sojourn attacked Huntsman and not Red. But that goes back to what you were saying earlier, Josh, about you've got to blitz that guy because you don't want Red healing.
It's also the pelt. You wanted. Well, if Red had terrible big mouth, he would have taken 4 damage on
Gotcha.
defense.
Good point. Now with knives out, not many good options either way.
You might see John thinking about putting the Huntsman to attack. You know he has used Once Upon a Time offensively, but he also has 4s, so if you try to feint, you might take 2 damage anyway. No, okay, he's not.
No long have I sought to use at this time.
No maneuver again.
Is this a double
Yeah,
maneuver?
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. Without the workers, you can't really pressure Red. Muldoon is trying to cover this whole big map, and he just can't do it by himself, even as a move 3 range.
We know as the follower, John did pick this map in starting position.
Your turn.
Definitely so that he could get player 1 to get off, never leave the path. But now we're seeing how that's paying dividends in the way that Muldoon cannot cover this whole board like you just said, Josh. Not by himself.
I guess he was also kind of making the bet then that Sojourn would start with InGen, right, over Big
Well, no, because the same trick works against Medusa. Wait,
Oh, John's got Medusa.
Oh, right.
Sojourn has. Big
I got
Well,
that mixed up.
I might have this mixed up myself, but I think the map pick comes after you know who's playing,
Yeah,
right?
it does.
Oh,
Yes.
right. Sorry. Yep, you're right. So he would have known this going in. Oh, what did he just discard? I missed that.
He got rid
I
of
think
the big 4, I think, right? They should all be destroyed. Yes, he did.
That's what he discarded.
That's what it looked like to me. I could have that wrong.
I'll do a maneuver.
Red draws up to 8 cards, but plenty of options to get rid of that 8th card if he maneuvers into an attack.
yeah, this is definitely not an exhaustive game, and Red can afford to discard a card to line the symbols on the basket. If he really wants that.
We haven't seen any what's then in my baskets come out yet.
Yeah.
Those are always if you're playing against them, they never come out in my experience when you want them to. They're always coming over your feints or setting up a turn that you thought that you had avoided.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wild card.
Does speak to John's gameplay so far, though, that he has not needed or felt like he needed to throw the wild out to control his symbols.
He might not have them, but I think he's going for the effects largely.
I'm gonna boost for the Grimtail.
He's gonna discard that
Okay.
to try to set up, or look like he's setting up big eyes.
He's using it to.
I used it to boost.
You might see a basket here if you try to feint big eyes.
That would be good bait to boost into that like you have big eyes and then play the basket, hoping that Sojourne plays a feint.
It's kind of a lose-lose. Even if you
I will have
feint the
red.
big eyes, it's 1 damage at this point.
Leap away. And it
It is big eyes.
It is big eyes.
And you're up.
That's gonna hurt going into a leap away.
Yeah.
One of Muldoon's highest defenses.
I think it hurts a little bit less given how the game is going, though. I know you want to put up a fight, but okay. So Frank, if
Yep.
you were a Sojourne at this point, with the match, the game one going this way, what's your plan for the match? How do you adjust mentally? How do you move on from this loss, or what
Yeah.
I seem to be a loss?
Right. No, that's a great question, and actually one that I've considered. I don't know, even in some of the pick ban options is like, at what point do you just, accept, okay, this one cards didn't work out, or it seems like, Zero has had just an incredible hand, right? That's been expertly executed. I would say this is probably a textbook best case scenario for Little Red in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I think maybe you just look ahead and say, okay, I've got to now beat Medusa twice. That prospect is maybe the worst one, right? Is that he is gonna have to face Medusa twice. But yeah, I think you probably just have to maybe not save some energy and some mental power, because it can be exhausting, and try to play it out to the best. You never know, but I would say certainly at this point, with him not having any option to get any health back, and Red having still at least 1 heal and full health, probably think about what's next.
Yeah, if he was at 10, I would say you want to put up a fight. You can't afford at this level to give away a match. But
Oh, that didn't split.
uh,
Can you put that?
yeah,
Okay.
I don't think it's one where you expect or hope to win.
Right. So we see Sojourne playing a remote or did he?
He
Play-
boosted to get
Yeah,
an
he
attack
could
enhancement
boost.
while it's a pelt, which again is typically what you want to do. I think he's just going through the motions at this point. He knows he can't take out Huntsman and Red. But if you attack Red now, you could just lose.
Oh, how rude.
Do you think playing on a little bit instead will let him calm down? I mean, you don't want to go a whole hour maybe and get tired from it unnecessarily, but
Yep.
just sort of
Down's in
collect
the
yourself,
belly.
know that you can play. It didn't line up.
No
but
line. Yeah.
Yeah, I think probably to your point, going through the motions, I think you don't want to get too down. certainly want to
Yep.
play it out and give a good fight. Who knows? Maybe he'll get that call for backup. But yeah, you don't want to probably overextend it either. To give yourself a little bit of time. Well, to unnecessary time in the chair or focusing. At the same time, yeah, I think you playing at this high level, you can speak to this. I'm sure from your experience here that how what the nerves are like. So you do want to take that time to kind of settle down, I guess. So this was John played Into the Woods, right? Which gave him an
Yes.
action, and then What's in My Basket.
Into a
he's
leap
still-
away.
And he still has one more action. But probably he just got pushed
Into
back.
the
Won't
trap
be get
then.
He got pushed on
It-
the trap. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, I have one more action. I will do a maneuver.
Sojourne hit small victories, right? Like he got the first,
Yeah.
drew first blood on Little Red, so that's got to celebrate something.
I think it's an excellent point you made, Josh, about allowing the tempo of this game and using that to kind of inwardly remain calm, and not mentally lose the next game now,
Speaking of the next game, if John wins with red, Sojourne gets to pick into Medusa twice. Now that's never easy, but which would you go for first?
So I think you know that you can win, or at least you have a pretty good shot with Bigfoot. So I might use the opportunity to start with Engine because this isn't like Swiss. You don't get a point for winning
Yeah.
a match. So you might as well just go for it with Engine while you have the ability to choose map and starting position, because if he loses this match, he gets to dictate those terms next. Whereas if he goes in with Bigfoot, wins, then Medusa gets to pick all of that for the Engine fight.
Yeah. Just go big or go home.
Well, I think you control more of the options, right? Is that point? Is like you're not going to get away from having to defeat Medusa with Ingen, so you might as well do
Yes.
it in your best possible, under the best possible circumstances.
Yeah. So we saw a boost to get to him here.
Yeah. You have to think it's a feint, knowing there's Once Upon a Time and it's a wild.
The feint is likely. Because otherwise, John gets whatever effect he wants here.
Going for it.
There's Once Upon a Time.
You got faint? Yep.
And
Go ahead and
What
put
was
it
the
on there.
card?
I think it's not feint. Oh, it is feint.
So it is.
It is feint.
Yeah, why take the risk, right?
Well
A
called,
little
Josh.
bit of game left.
Alright, and it's my turn? Yep. So I'll start with a maneuver.
Sojourne has done a good job with these traps, though. Red has to go an awful way around to get to Muldoon right now.
Yeah, you're delaying the inevitable a bit.
And
This map pick is not the best for InGen. I think that's also
attack.
one thing John's thought about. it's just too open. You can block. Maybe the parts leading up to the boat. That's 2 damage.
And your
Hurts.
That's what we were talking about before, right? Even if he feints that, it's a 6. He was adjacent to him, but even with the feint, you still get 2 over. Tough one. I mean, at that point, it's pretty much that card. It's pretty much an automatic 2 damage.
It is because
Yeah.
the Muldoon has a 4. It's
Yeah.
also 2.
Exactly.
So we see him using the traps to block Little Red's way here. Will he maneuver or will he just try and finish the Huntsman off? Just to say he did.
He's used a lot of his 4s as defense. He's used 2 feints. I'm not sure what really he can defend with.
Here comes the attack.
Three cards in hand.
what you're trying
It's
to
possible John just takes it. He might not have a good defense.
Yeah, it looks like he is thinking about
It,
whether
it
he
will
wants to defend
delay
or
the
not.
game. It will delay the game because Red does have to pop those traps herself. Some of them. It will.
First
It will deal some damage to her, but again, it's. They both started at 14. Red took 1.
Right.
Muldoon's taken 13 so far. That didn't even finish. Oh wait,
It
was
did.
that?
It was,
okay,
it was his
did.
first
It
action.
did.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, John knew that. Okay, at least small victories.
Huntsman is down. A call for backup right now isn't going to save the game, but it is going to push it a lot harder than it would without any workers on the board.
Yeah. So one thing to note is Muldoon doesn't have cards that will force Red to discard cards. So John knows if he gets Never Leave the Path and gets into Muldoon's zone with knives in the basket, that is damage he cannot stop. But if you get your workers, if you somehow block every single time and use the workers to attack Red and deal damage and take damage, you might just do it. It's suddenly winnable. Well, potentially.
I'll pop the straps.
I think the Huntsman
Alright.
being gone does help a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, it definitely is going to stretch the game because those traps really slow Red down.
He does only
It's-
have 2 left, I think.
He has 2
Nice.
left, and I think just looking at the cards, they're even at 11, if I'm seeing that correctly. So, even at this point, it's a lot of cards left, but Muldoon has no time. I mean, exhaustion's not even an option, right? At this point, I mean, you would literally kill him with 1 health left. So, I can't see, if John starts popping traps and accelerating card draw, takes another
Your turn. Yep.
round off. That's another thing to always consider. We were talking about it at the beginning. I think you have to be really careful with how many cards you draw off traps.
Yeah. I don't think John wants to encourage card draw right now because he doesn't want call for backup to come out.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna double check. Yeah, he's got both of them still.
he does. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
statistically, he should have pulled it already, right? He's got unlucky shuffle, it seems.
Right. So I mean, if I'm John, I don't want to see that come out, and I really don't want to encourage that happening 2 more times before the game is over.
I think he's just going to pop what traps he needs to sort of get the positioning.
All right, you guys can
Oh,
go.
there it
And
is.
there it is.
You have found the pocket.
So call for backup. So it looks like he is going to bring back the workers, and he's choosing to place the traps.
Ah, that's a nice trick. Because you get to choose the order, and you can't put traps where workers are, but you can put workers where traps are.
Sandwiching
You are
red
hoping-
between.
You
What was
are
that, Josh?
hoping red doesn't. You are hoping red doesn't have hands right now.
Yeah, I think.
You also don't want him to maneuver and draw never leave the path, because that's
Yes.
game over
Well,
right
that's
now.
yeah.
My turn. Okay.
That's right. Little Red has one more never leave the path. And do you think we're going to see they should all be destroyed? That would be
You ready to get there, or
it would be a 6.
It would be a 6 attack. John could feint it, but he wouldn't get the basket effect. So he'd still take damage.
yeah, I think he wants big eyes on attack at this point. It's also a guaranteed win,
Right.
I'll do a maneuver.
Good point.
so he knows he has 2 ways to win.
No. I wait.
He's just gonna double maneuver.
He might not have better options.
And it's fine. He can just defend with baskets, and he hasn't used.
It's your turn.
He's used stones once.
He still has 2 stones.
Yeah.
It was indeed a double maneuver turn, so is Sojourne going to attack twice to take advantage of the spin?
I think he has. It's his chance to, and use the workers.
Muldoon?
At least, well, against a knife.
You still have no Once Upon a Time.
Now there's no more Once Upon a Time. What you want is the workers to take the big mouth damage. That's also another win condition. I think it's just 1 win condition too many.
Yep. Okay. I will defend.
Okay, here we go.
So I take
Okay.
Yep.
It is 2 damage over 4.
Frank, good call, and they will all be
Off the
destroyed.
red zone, huh?
That was your you described the Prospero move in the intro. I think we saw
Yeah.
it there executed.
It's a bit delayed, but it's still
Delayed.
works.
This is true. It's the delayed Prospero. Nuanced.
My turn.
Little Red wasn't exactly going anywhere though, was she?
No,
Yeah.
no, I suppose not.
It's a pretty tough pin right there. Even if the worker's gone, she's still hitting the trap.
Never leave the path. It's mostly used for the knives, but if the other symbols line up with the Wolf's Bane,
I'll pass.
you can actually draw 3
I
cards.
go here.
And with the pelt, you can move and gain an action.
Maneuver.
Yeah, that's.
There we go. Out of the pin. 1 action
Is he gonna
gained.
maneuver, discard, and set up?
And I'll attack.
No, he's gonna discard and attack. Yeah,
Sorry, that was such
And there it is.
there it
a
is.
opening. That was brutal.
It was a win.
Yeah, but it's okay. I think
Wow.
it's to be expected.
All right. Do we want to tune into the players now and kind of hear some of their post-game discussion?
I think we can. Yep.
Went my way
Yeah.
up in the early game. You know, like did you not have feints early game?
No, I only drew my first paint about 15 cards in. Yeah, that was the painful one.
I think that might have also been what was causing the audio issues
Even though I
earlier.
expected the
It was, I think. There we go.
Once upon a time, I couldn't do anything about it.
Right, and you can't risk taking 4 that's not a once upon a time because I still have to find 4 damage outside my auto somehow throughout the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I think that was expected. I won't blame that on card draw. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it works out for red, sometimes it doesn't. But my mulligan hand was definitely way better than my pre-mulligan hand, so thank you, mulligan.
Did you start with both once upon a time?
No, I started with one of them, but I drew into another one pretty early, and then I was able to pull out that hand's recycle into one.
Yep.
So that was huge, and obviously you had the feint for the last one when you attacked Huntsman, but then Huntsman got his axe in,
Yep.
and I mean then he did his damage. Yeah. So, well, good game.
Yep, good game.
And on to game.
All right.
Well,
That was a match, huh?
it was impressive. I think that was a Little Red Masterclass. And actually, this is Sojourne's first. If we don't count I have to look at what he did yesterday, but certainly he went undefeated through the Swiss rounds, right? With the exception of that.
He's lost games but not matches, so
John-
he would win 2-1s.
John did beat him one of the games in their previous matches. Dracula beat his Raptors. Frank, I think you hit the nail on the head during the game when you called out that what we were looking at was the perfect alignment of Red's deck played to absolute perfection by John. And I think it's hard to beat that. It's not just the luck of the draw, it's then having the know-how to effectively utilize that.
It definitely Little Red games definitely fall into curve, and this is the peak of it.
Yeah. Okay, so now we're heading into match 2. We know that John has to play Medusa, so we talked about this a little before, but what are you thinking Sojourne's going to do here?
I agree with you. I think he's got to go in Gen where he can pick the map, and I think that seems to be the Bigfoot might be. I wouldn't say anyone's a super great matchup against Medusa, but maybe is a preferable matchup with Bigfoot. So let him try to control a little bit more of the elements with the in Gen match.
Yeah, I think it really is just about having as much control as possible over this matchup. Josh has already talked about the triangle meta. You know that Bigfoot has like a really good chance against Medusa, and so you might want to give the control over the less known variable with Muldoon. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it could lead to a 2-0, which again it doesn't represent how well these players play or how good they are, but you're in this position where a Bigfoot Medusa win isn't enough to actually take you to the finals, and you have to think about the big picture and give yourself the best chance you have, even if it's not great.
Yeah.
Yep.
One thing though, we keep talking about having a little bit of control, but what is the best map, do you think? Because they're both ranged. They both have the 3 sidekicks. Josh, do you have a thought on a strong map for Muldoon?
I'm not sure. I think right now, if you do Yukon, you could double attack her. Again, it might not get you very much. She has a lot of forced discards for you. But if you have an open map, Medusa's just going to camp and force you to take ping damage with her ability, which is, at the start of your turn, deal 1 damage to an opposing fighter. it's useful for taking Muldoon down slowly. If you could, you might win it without dealing any attack damage, though Medusa's also really strong in that department. And it's also good for taking out workers without any defense. Yeah, I mean, you can't stop it. No cards.
Right. I think that's another one. They both have these ability to neutralize those single HP sidekicks, right? Even with the traps. If Muldoon, depending on the map, if there are kind of more single passageways,
Yeah.
in creating situations where, neutralizing the harpies.
If you can neutralize the harpies, that will be good. They have 3 cards to force you to discard.
The one advantage Muldoon gets is that his lackeys are ranged and Medusa's are melee. But, range still has to be in her zone. And if you attack as your second action in her zone, you're losing that worker on her turn.
I'm sure at that point you're
It
hoping...
is going to be an interesting sort of positioning play.
We'll see. Maybe he just wants to go for the win, and he does pick Bigfoot. Well, I mean,
It's possible.
just thinking about the mental game or just thinking psychologically, picking Bigfoot and knowing, well, I'll probably win here or I have a better shot at winning, then maybe psychologically you'll play better in match 3 having one win under your belt.
And fatigue is a thing when you're game 3 especially. You might have more mistakes. Again, Medusa's more forgiving if you make mistakes with her. It's hard to say. I mean, it's totally valid to go either way, and I wouldn't think the position here loses the match. It's just 2 good options.
Well, you made me think maybe Sojourne is thinking we'll go 3 games because John's been doing this since 8 a.m. today. Maybe he'll get tired, but I know from the Discord chat that Sojourne didn't sleep very well. He only got 5 hours. He said he kept waking up in fits because he was so excited to play the game. So I don't know that he is thinking that way because maybe he's thinking, man, I'm ready to go to sleep myself.
That's an interesting point. I mean, that was definitely a topic in the last tournament weekend, right, where we had even longer matches, right, a best of 7, and by the end,
players play multiple matches on the same day.
Yeah, and so it's pretty intense. But certainly, it's a good point, John. The other John, Zero's been up, presenting in the earlier match, I guess, as you, but now he's playing, and Sojourne. It's his morning, but maybe he's not. He didn't sleep so well last night.
Yeah, I mean, not only has John been up since this morning, but we're all in the Discord. We know that he was commenting in the Discord as late as 1 a.m. last night, so it's not like he could have gotten that much sleep himself.
That's right. Yeah, that's actually a good point, and I don't know if we've made a call out yet, but 645 Development, who has put on this show, both he and John have just done an incredible, put in a ton of time and put on an incredible production. So a ton of work goes into it. I think, as evident as you're saying, John was up, I'm sure probably working on graphics and other preparation for the presentation today. So, yep, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reiterate that shout out to 645 Development. Alan, this stuff looks great, sounds great, everything rocks. So thanks. All right. So just in case anybody who's come in late, why don't we roll again that how to play video ahead of this next game? So anybody who's just joining us right now, maybe missed match 1, we're coming in for game 2 here. Here's a real brief video to give you the rundown of what we're going to be watching.
Unmatched is a card-based tactical fighting game featuring various characters from history, literature, and fantasy. The goal? Reduce the opposing hero's health to 0. Players take turns performing any combination of 2 actions, from maneuvering, scheming, or attacking. A maneuver causes the player to draw a card from their deck and lets them move any of their fighters around the board. They may increase the distance of their move by discarding a card known as a boost. When a scheme card is played, simply follow the text on the card to complete the action. For an attack, the turn player will choose a card from their hand to place face down for combat. The opponent will have the option to place one of their cards down as defense. The value on the cards will determine the damage dealt in combat. Melee fighters can only attack adjacent spaces, while ranged fighters can also attack any space within their color-coordinated zone. Some characters have sidekicks to help them out, and others fight solo. Each hero has their own unique abilities and deck of cards to bring the character to life. Because in battle, there are no equals.
All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. So coming back, we have received word that it is going to be Bigfoot versus Medusa. So why don't we go ahead and go to those decks and take a look at some of these key cards.
Going with the slightly favorable matchup, perhaps.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to start with Medusa. Joshua, you mentioned earlier her special ability. Do you want to explain that a little more in depth for our viewers? Joshua?
I can catch it if he's
Okay,
on,
go ahead,
if he's on mute.
Frank.
Sure, yeah. So Medusa's special ability is that she can optionally deal 1 damage to any opposing fighter in her zone at the start of her turn. And this is a kind of a nuance. We talked earlier about Beowulf's Rage. It's not something that he has control over. It happens as part of a game mechanic. It is possible to forget, so she doesn't automatically deal damage, that she may deal damage. So you have to remember to inform your opponent that you're dealing the damage to them. So I would expect at this level they probably won't forget, but it's something to keep in mind if you're out there playing. Don't forget to ping your opponent every at the beginning of your turn.
If I had a nickel for every time I forgot to do that, and it's cost me games,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate, or anybody learning
totally.
the game. Yeah. You know, it's definitely something to keep in mind. Like you said, it's not like Bigfoot's. It is a choice. So if you forget it, you're going to lose it. All right. So just kind of looking at her key cards then and keeping that in mind. The first one up is a biggie. It's Gaze of Stone. So it's a 2 attack. And after combat, if you won the combat, deal a whopping 8 damage to the opposing fighter. Gaze of Stone, she gets 3 of these cards. And the whole thing is the attack is so low, it's unlikely to win the combat. So you're really trying to hope to catch somebody off guard. Maybe they have no defense. Maybe, they've only got a regroup or something. So there's another effective use of Gaze of Stone that we'll get to in just a minute. Next up, we have Hiss and Slither, which is a value 4 defense card. Super high defense, not a versatile, just a defense card. And after combat, your opponent discards 1 card. A well-timed Hiss and Slither against an opponent with a small hand size can really go a long way towards making Gaze of Stone a viable win condition. It's by no means guaranteed, but there's some synergy there with that. Now with Second Shot, this attack all the way on the right, this 3 attack, during combat, you may boost this attack. So this is during combat, meaning you get to see the other opponent's card first, and you can boost this attack. This is where Gaze of Stone really shows its strength most times, because Gaze of Stone has a boost value of 4. 4 is the highest boost value we've seen in any card in the game. There are very few cards throughout the game that have a 4. So if you use Gaze of Stone with Second Shot, you're attacking for 7, which it could be big, could be game changing. Against Bigfoot, your odds of getting to pull this off are less than anybody else because Bigfoot has 5 defense cancel cards, but still something to keep in mind. Then we've got Dash, which after combat you move your fighter up to 3 spaces. This is a versatile, so you can use it as attack or defense. On defense, a good way is just to get like some key positioning. Attacking, same way. You're just using this. Maybe you need to get away. If somebody's going to double attack you, you defend with that the first action, and then you're out of there, and you don't have to worry about getting attacked the second time. And finally, we have a Harpy card. So we talked about Harpies a little bit. She's got 3 of them. They're 1 health sidekicks. They are melee. And this is Clutching Claws. After combat, your opponent discards 1 card. So like Hiss and Slither, this is not a win condition-based effect. It's just after combat, whether you won or you lost that combat, your opponent's getting rid of a card. So that can be absolutely brutal. Josh, anything to add? It looked like we lost you there for a second.
Medusa's pretty well.
Okay, let's go on to Bigfoot. All right, Bigfoot is the Stomper. We talked about him earlier today. John went over his cards in relation to Josh and Big's Goods match, but I'll go over it again for anybody new joining us. Bigfoot is all about those big attacks. So if we look at that first attack up front to the left, larger than life, is a 6-value attack with no combat effects. That's key because if you faint going into larger than life, well, you've canceled nothing and you're taking a whopping 4 damage. Bigfoot gets 3 of these bad boys. So timing these logs is everything. Next, we've got Savagery, which is an attack for 4. And the after combat is if you won the combat, so this one does have a win condition, deal 1 damage to each fighter adjacent to Bigfoot. This could be really big in eliminating several harpies at once. You know, if they try and swarm you or they position you, or if you maneuver in and attack with this guy, that could be a game changer. Then we've got the Jackalope horns. Move the Jackalope up to 5 spaces. You can move the Jackalope through spaces that contain opposing fighters, so you can go right through those pesky harpies if you need to, and then you can deal 2 damage to any one fighter adjacent to the Jackalope. So Bigfoot gets 3 of these, which means that he has in his deck 6 damage, and also important about them is that they're passes. So you don't have to draw a card to use this. You play it as a scheme, you move 5 spaces, you do damage. It's a really great card, and it's one of the reasons why somebody might want to take the Jackalope out real early game to avoid taking that 6 damage. And he's got It's Just Your Imagination, which is faint but better, depending, because it's not a versatile. You can't attack with it, but it's a 3-value defense that cancels all effects on your opponent's card. This is not a Bigfoot-specific card. The Jackalope can also use this as a defense. And he does, in addition to that, have 3 feints. Then he's got Hoax, which is a 4-value versatile that's all about the positioning. So after combat, move your fighter up to 5 spaces, and you can move that fighter through spaces containing opposing fighters. Unlike something like Skirmish or Leap Away, this movement condition is not based on winning the combat. So you can get this off whether you win or you lose. Do you guys have anything to add to Bigfoot?
I think we can talk about the matchup, and I think some of the nuance there next.
Yeah.
Is that, I think the big, you mentioned it, It's Just Your Imagination cancels all effects on your opponent's card. You have 3 feints in addition to that. I think probably one of the reasons that you really like having all those canceled options against Medusa, where, her big attack is that second shot boosted with, that's the kind of signature Medusa attack. You have a high probability of negating a lot of that damage. So definitely something to consider.
Absolutely. What do you guys think would be an ideal map for this matchup? So we know Sojourne picked Bigfoot, he's going into Medusa, and he gets map choice and positioning. What do you think is the best one to go to?
I would pick Hero just because.
That was banned on purpose.
Banned,
probably.
yeah. Probably on purpose, exactly right.
I forgot about that.
I think that one was banned, and was it Sherwood was the other one that was banned, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sherwood has a turn 3. Well, turn 1 you can maneuver as a movement 3 fighter and hit Medusa immediately. If he's not blocked by a Harpy.
I think you definitely want to avoid Yukon, because you kind of want to avoid the death loop against ranged fighters here, I think. Okay, let me see.
Well,
I'm getting word that we do have a map, and it is Baskerville. If we could get Baskerville up on the screen, that would be great. Boom. All right. All right, guys, what do you think about Baskerville as the option?
It's a map with a special feature, and that's the little secret passages. You see, all secret passages are considered connected for movement, but not for attack. So you can't attack through a passage, but you have more mobility, and Bigfoot and Medusa are both movement 3 fighters along with their sidekicks. So you'll see a lot of moving about.
I like this map for Bigfoot just because so many of his card effects and schemes are about moving,
Yeah.
5 spaces, and this board just opens him up to go anywhere he wants.
He'll also get to pick his position. I mean, the one thing that strikes me is you have one kind of triple zone spot there in the manor in the upper right hand. I gotta imagine that Medusa wants to get up into that zone, right, and kind of neutralize any sidekicks that go into any of those spaces. And the other thing to call out is an interesting one. We have up to 6 sidekicks on the board at any time. I would expect to see a lot of.
No, he's playing Bigfoot.
Oh
not-
gosh, sorry, I'm stuck on the
problem.
last one. Yeah, thank you. I'm still stuck. But yeah. So looking to kind of keep Bigfoot at bay, I guess. So that's maybe not as relevant now. So yeah, but maybe we still maybe see here. What do you think? Camping out. We know that upper corner, the small zone. That might be where Bigfoot might want to find his spot.
Yeah, well, I was thinking Medusa normally might have an advantage against, a fighter who is solo or only has one sidekick here because she has 3 sidekicks to block up the passages, to block those, ports up. But against Bigfoot, so many of his effects let him move through fighters. I don't know how much of an advantage that really is here. I mean, it's almost nullified.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I think if you can take out the harpies early, you just overpower Medusa. Bigfoot and Medusa both are 16 health fighters with no healing. So any damage you do is permanent.
All right.
And yeah.
Before we head to the fighters, do you guys have a favorite for this matchup? Any predictions?
I would like to see it go to game 3.
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be the most fun for everybody. So why don't we tune in? It looks like they're ready to go. So we'll tune in right now and we'll pop in on our players setting up and getting ready to play. All right. So Sojourne picked second position.
Kind of predictable.
Yeah.
Gonna have
definitely.
Medusa
And the third
start.
and fourth are the ones that kind of shape the 5th and 6th.
And we're gonna do the
And
keep
also,
or
I think
mulligan
the thing about
phase
too
to
is, like,
start us off.
Sometimes when you get map and starting disadvantage, a lot of times it's player 1 trying to be aggressive, right? And pick
Joshua,
the
what do you
map
think
and
about
starting
starting
position number 1 so
second
they can
in this
start off
scenario?
aggressively.
Do you like
But
it?
the
Or
mulligan
It's a
Would you have
little
gone a
bit
different route?
surprising, but I understand why.
At least the mulligan can give you
I
enough
think
chances.
Bigfoot doesn't want to make the first move.
Avoiding
You
that
want
situation,
more
I think
cards
that helps out a
against
lot.
Medusa. This isn't going to exhaustion, so you can use your Bigfoot ability to keep up with Medusa discarding your cards. But if Medusa started second, the zone, the blue and brown zone she covers is pretty big. You don't want to attack early and taking damage from ability. I think by choosing that, now Medusa has to maneuver. She could attack Bigfoot on turn 1, but it's less optimal for her.
Really good point. Just to pick up on something you said for our viewers, I don't think we went over it when we went over decks. Bigfoot's special ability is that if he ends his turn in a zone with no opposing fighters, then he may choose to draw a card. Just like Medusa's, it is optional. He gets the choice of whether to do so or not.
Yeah.
And oh, go ahead, Josh.
Basketball helps that because the zones are pretty tiny.
They
It's hard
are.
to cover all the zones.
It is a smaller
This map is
zoned
so
map.
crazy, I don't know
All right, here we go. We're gonna see. Frank, what do you want to start with if you're either of these characters? What are you mulliganing away? I guess I should say.
Oh. I think for Medusa, you know, again, want to be sure that you start with some good defensive cards. I think it's probably unlikely that Bigfoot's going to run in, as Josh just said, but certainly don't want to get caught without good defense. And I would also, if I were, you know, Medusa, maybe look for a few of those key kind of harpy cards. You want to be sure to get them in. I know in previous games, if the clutching claws are buried, those are really useful. Obviously, you can make use of your sidekicks and force those 3 discards. You don't want to miss out on those if you end up losing your sidekicks.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, especially since Joshua did bring up that as Bigfoot, you want to get rid of these harpies like right away, and then you kind of run this board on Medusa. So starting with some, you know, strong harpy defenses that at least discard cards is really good early game strategy. So that's a really good call out on both of your guys' parts.
Of course. Yep. Alright, man, you ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Alright, good luck.
I think if you're Bigfoot, you also really want to start with some defense at least. You don't want Medusa turn 1, Gaze of Stoning you
Yes.
and catching you unawares.
That's exactly, yeah, that's a great point. I think the other thing about Gaze is, like, you know, it's kind of the sidekick exterminator can be, right? If, let's see, you do want to save them up for this the second shots. Sorry, blanking. But you know, sometimes it's fun just to, if you have a feeling you have a chance at taking a sidekick out if they're low on cards.
Yeah.
Can be a neutralizer.
That could work with Jackalope. He's a 6 health hero. You could take him out one shot. I mean, I don't see a situation. Well, it's hard to say. The game hasn't started right, but I was thinking it's hard to see a situation where you don't defend a Jackalope from Medusa just because you're worried about Gaze of Stone right away.
There we see John going right for the exit
I'll maneuver again.
on his first maneuver.
Closing those holes up right away.
That's right.
And I will go.
This is one of those matches where the threat of Gaze of Stone isn't as strong. You know, in a lot of matchups, just the threat of Gaze of Stone is weightier than the card itself, but because Bigfoot has so many cancels and so many strong defensive cards, you know, in Hoax and in Momentous and Skirmish, it's not that terrifying, I would think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's really when you get caught in a tough spot where you say, "Oh, am I going to spend if I only have a couple, 1 or 2 defense cards," and you're wondering whether it's worth keeping the sidekick around. Probably for the Jackalope, it's how many horns you've had a chance to play might be the deciding factor.
Right. Both Bigfoot and Medusa have regroups, which is not very notable, other than the fact that we could see a double regroup, which is always my favorite thing to see.
Medusa's positioned in such a way, again, if you attack melee with Bigfoot, she gets to deal your damage.
Yeah, she's on one of those split zones.
Well, there are 4 secret passages on Baskerville, and if you try to block all 4, you're leaving Medusa away from the sidekicks, and Bigfoot's just gonna take out the harpies one by one. So that's why John put Medusa beside Harpy, I think the most vulnerable one. And we'll see how quickly those go.
Okay, double maneuver from both players for their opening turn. Setting up some strong positions. I think both players know that they could be in for a very long match here, and they're settling into that idea here with these two maneuvers, just getting strong hands, setting up good positions, and getting ready for what could be an explosive match.
One thing to call out about Medusa's discards, and maybe why Sojourne does want to keep such a big hand, I think that Josh alluded to earlier, is that you get on both Clutch and Claws and Hiss and Slither, you get to choose which card you discard, which is a little bit more satisfying than having a random one pooled.
Yeah, the risk of having too many good cards is significantly less. And you want, say, a regroup to discard. So you definitely want to choose that.
We expect to see Bigfoot maintain a large hand as much as he can. True that, but
Excellent call out. I do agree. Right to Joshua's point about the regroup. You almost want to always have that in hand.
But I mean, like from an oppressive deck perspective, Medusa's 6 potential discards is pretty brutal.
It is.
Medusa's got auto damage based on starting zone. She's got those 6 discards. She's got 3 Gaze of Stones, 3 second shots. She's ranged. She has, 3 sidekicks who themselves can be oppressive. There's a reason we consider her big 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, John, if you were playing Bigfoot, what do you think is your win condition? How do you deal 16 damage to win the game?
So it's gonna be Jackalope, right? I'm gonna want to get my
That
Jackalope
is
horns
6.
off. Yeah, so that's 6. And so we've got 10 damage left. And you can't count on Larger Than Life doing a massive amount because of Hiss and Slither. So if you assume that all 6 of them hit Hiss and Slither, which is not statistically likely, but just playing it out. So that's 6 damage there. So then you've got her down to 4. And from there, you're hoping Savagery wins some combat, so you get to deal extra 1 damage there, maybe. I don't think that it's an easy win by any means. And even when you were talking about the fact that it's Bigfoot favored, I don't think you were saying that it's a slam dunk at all.
Yeah.
I think it's also important for Bigfoot to cancel second shots.
Yeah.
I think those are key, and even attacking possibly with feint into Hiss and Slither could be a deciding factor.
Yeah. Again, Medusa only has 3/4, so if they don't line up, if you go against a dash, a snipe, that is 1 extra damage. You could get 9 damage out of those logs, which would put Medusa at 15. It's quite a big difference.
Yeah, it's true.
I think, John, you raised another good point actually that we haven't talked about. Is kind of that idea of like the offensive feint, right? I think a lot of people think about, feint, that's when I want to cancel my, whatever's coming at me and use it as a defense. But I think certainly it's an interesting to try to negate that Hiss and Slither for being an interesting strategy
We just
for Bigfoot.
saw an offensive feint from John. I think. What do you think was the reasoning behind that?
Well, I think. Oh, we saw that from John. That's interesting. Well, he could have been trying to stop him from movement. Like maybe he wants to slug it out with him for a turn. Because so many of Bigfoot's 6 of his
I believe
defense.
that was with the Harpies though, and then
was
he
it?
maneuvered.
Okay. Got it.
Bigfoot's attacking Medusa.
Yep.
I think my guess is he's trying to make Sojourne think it's a clutching clause and draw out a feint.
I see.
I think if you can hit a 6 here and just maneuver away, that would be a pretty good day.
Oh, there it
There we
is.
go.
Good call. So that goes into a snipe, which lets John draw a card, but he is going to take 3 damage.
Would you go for a second attack here?
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah. You could even draw up to 7. I think, again, this is not a match that goes to exhaustion.
So if he went for a second attack there and then hit a hiss and slither, I mean, he would have been down
Yeah,
to 3
that would
cards.
have been painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, on this map, getting to Medusa isn't too hard. I don't think attacking to 7 card hands is the way to go.
That's fair. So already, kind of what you and I were talking about earlier, Josh, when we were talking about these larger than lifes, I was saying, count on 2 damage from them, and right away we saw it. It got 3, like you said. It's probably going to be a little bit more.
Okay, well, I asked John about Bigfoot's win. Frank, what do you think it takes for Medusa to win this? 16 damage to Bigfoot.
I think one key that's definitely gonna. I mean, he's capable of dealing a ton of damage. One is gonna be having some good luck or getting the discards to land. Part of that will probably be keeping the harpies alive, like we talked about earlier. Probably try. It's tough to land. I don't know. If he can draw out enough of the cancellations or get some of a bigger boosted attack through, that's got to be a key part of his strategy, right? Is maybe get some damage in with the harpies, although Bigfoot does have a lot of defense, but I don't know, the Hounds of Mighty Zeus, where it's a 4, wearing on him a bit. Obviously taking advantage of the auto pings, and I think the key discards probably limiting like he's doing here. And I don't know, are we seeing him attack the Jackalope? No.
So he attacked with feint again.
Yeah, he's trying to bait them out because you don't want to feint Bigfoot, really. I think we saw firsthand how painful that gets.
Well, that was a really good call out by Sojourne and just defending with a regroup there.
Yeah,
It is risky.
It is.
It's a good read.
What do you guys think about how key it is to get rid of the Jackalope early for Medusa?
Definitely, because your game plan, as you say, if you land Gaze of Stone, that's 10 damage undefended, assuming that's really the only way it wins, unless it's against a regroup. But in order to do that, you have to run Bigfoot out of cards, and you have to get to the end of the game. If you don't survive, you don't have that win condition. And if you take Jackalope out before you take 6 damage, I think that's pretty much what you need to stay alive. I don't
Definitely.
think Bigfoot can find 6 extra damage when the Jackalope's gone.
I agree. And then the other thing with attacking the Jackalope so often, which you alluded to, is Bigfoot's throwing his defenses that way, which will only help later.
So it's a race, I think, for Bigfoot. And Medusa's trying to draw it out. But also rush the Jackalope. So I think we see the first attack on a Harpy. Not sure whether it's Bigfoot or Jackalope. Again, it doesn't really matter because they share so many common cards, which is why Bigfoot's so easy to play. You don't have to manage your hand.
So, looks like he let that go.
Move Bigfoot anywhere in purple.
Disengage.
Which will let him go anywhere in his zone. Interesting.
And he'll maneuver, I think.
The obvious.
Yeah.
Gonna be a maneuver.
Good call.
It's Bigfoot schemes are movement schemes. You don't want that on your second action. You might want to set up an attack, but yeah, you're not going to use Jackalope Horns now and risk taking 2 attacks. What do you think about Sojourne's positioning of Bigfoot, Frank?
I mean, that purple zone is very small, right? That he's gonna make, I guess, probably the harpies come to him. Medusa would have to get right up next to him to attack, and the advantage of his current placement is that that wouldn't actually trigger her effect, and it would set her up for a potential double attack. So I like it. He's really trying to minimize the her ranged ability, and I think he's making the harpies come to him, which probably pretty happy about, because I think a key part of his strategy is trying to get rid of them
Yeah.
as well.
I think he's found the best zone for Bigfoot. And yeah, range fighters in this game are strong, but they're not unbeatable. You need to know how to make them come to you so you don't have to run up to them all the time.
Yeah. You mentioned this earlier when we talked about it, like these where you have zones that have adjacent spaces that don't share a color.
Not the same, yeah.
In fact, I think looking at this map, you might know off the top of your head, but is that the only space in this zone, or on this map, that has 2 where the zones combine and are actually not? Oh, there's the dark blue and light blue over on the left-handed side, but otherwise, most of the other ones share a colored space, right? Some.
Yes.
There might be more. There might be a couple more
They're more like the gray, sort of.
at the bottom, right?
But
Those
it's a
2.
big patch. A ranged fighter will love to be in one end. We see a feint getting baited out by a dash.
Yeah, that was the first cancel card played by Bigfoot so far. And now the Harpy is open to attacks.
Well, the thing is, he's also burning common cards. So if Bigfoot takes out all the Harpies without the Harpies using their cards, they're not alive to actually bait anything. And Medusa's slowly using up her available defenses too.
I wonder if John is throwing these Harpies so strong because he has a Winged Frenzy in his hand.
Possible.
Because I feel like he's using them for, like, lambs to the slaughter right now. Like, granted, he's getting some card pulls from Bigfoot, but we talked about win condition being getting rid of these Harpies, and John seems to be playing into that.
It's an interesting one. Like we were discussing earlier, you'd think you would want to see a Clutch and Claws come out and see him discarding down a bit. Let's see.
So Sojourne maneuvered Jackalope away so that Bigfoot could do this. So this could be a momentous.
That would be my guess. Or he wants him to think it's momentous,
Yeah.
and it's another regroup.
Regroup would be fun.
They're just it is a loss. Yeah. That's a good one. I think toss matters less with this matchup. It lets you move through fighters. It could help you set up, like, you could move through Medusa if she's camping there trying to block the secret passage, but it's not your most important card.
Right. So that was the first clutching claws. We saw Sojourn, well, he attacked with disengage, but then he discarded a crash through the trees. That was his second and final disengage.
It was a good disengage. I think he left the Jackalope open to Medusa coming to attack, but now he's repositioned. Is he not up to draw there?
Medusa's coming. We were going to have to see that sooner rather than later.
I'll have Medusa attack Jackalope.
Yeah, she used the passage there. It looks like 4 moves, but again,
Yeah.
There we
Okay,
go.
Alright,
there we
Nice
see
there we
the
go.
Fainted second shot.
One second shot down.
yeah, it's on the Jackalope.
Okay, your turn.
And Medusa's really trying to push that. Well, it's 3 out of 6 health. We'll see how many horns come out.
And he brings Medusa into that small little zone. Opens himself up to a double attack, but looking at the card, or the hand
It's only
size,
from Jackalope because Bigfoot can't attack Medusa.
right? And I think it's unlikely anyway. Looking at the hand
Yes.
size, I think it's a calculated risk that John took and felt he was pretty safe.
This 1 second shot.
That's right, he has 2 more left.
hmm Do you think Sojourne's priority is getting Jackalope out of the zone since he's at 3 health?
Yes. You do not want to give free damage away.
It surprised you he's not trying to... I guess the Jackalope can't, without boosting, can't get in front of... Yeah. It's going to be tough for him to position him where he's safe, right? You can't block him in.
He'll maneuver
guess-
again, but
Even then, I guess Medusa's ranged and could
Yeah.
get a shot over Bigfoot. Right? Just some statistics. You guys have a guess who? And this, unfortunately, didn't filter this in advance. So this is all tournaments all time. So both previous and this one. Who has the best win rate against Medusa in competitive play? Any guesses?
player or fighter?
Sorry, hero. What fighter?
In the tournament,
Yes. Well,
Is
in,
it-
in all competitive play, yeah. So the
Okay.
last 2 tournaments, yeah.
I'll throw a guess out there and say Dracula.
That's right. Nice guess.
Wow.
He's got 5 out of 19 victories. So Medusa's been defeated 19 times. Drac
man.
5, Bigfoot 4, Little Red 3, Muldoon 2. That's maybe not too promising for the next one. But
No.
5 out
Robin
of
three.
19 as in Medusa's losses. It doesn't say, like, raids.
Right.
oh no, she has
It
the
could
highest
be
win, she has the highest win rate in the tournament. I'm just saying if you're going to beat
No, I
Medusa,
mean, yeah. Those 2 Muldoon wins could have been 100% win rate. Maybe Medusa's never beaten Muldoon. That's unlikely, of course, but
I can get
So Medusa's only been defeated 19 times in competitive play.
how about the other big? I think Bigfoot's the most vulnerable. I mean, He's been exploited the most. I think Medusa has weaknesses too, but yeah, people haven't quite exploited them yet.
I think that the number being so low too is because most people aren't letting you play.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I bet Sherlock has a single digit number for defeat.
I agree with you. So the stats might not be so. And then Medusa has defeated Muldoon 4 times, so she's 4-2
Okay.
against Muldoon.
And
Still favored.
Small data, it's hard to say, but
True.
keep that Harpy there.
It is interesting to note though for our little community.
yeah.
And then I will.
Okay, so we see a winged frenzy come out and bring back a harpy.
And
In this
yeah, that
matchup,
maneuver is. Go ahead.
I was going to just ask, in this matchup, would you want to use momentary glance as the scheme for 2 damage, or do you want to risk being able to pull it off with second shot?
I wouldn't be in a rush. I think Bigfoot can't force you to discard or ambush you or anything. You can just hold it and decide. Because if you use Gaze of Stone for second shot, that's a threat you lose later on.
Right.
And in most cases, Medusa can win. She doesn't need that threat, but against Bigfoot, I think she's going to need it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think sitting on a momentary glance is a good call too, because like you said, it's not leaving your hand, outside of your design.
That's right. And for all the viewers, Momentary Glance has a boost of 4, so it's the other card in Medusa's deck that has a boost of 4, along with Gaze of Stone, making it a great candidate to be the boost card of. Oh, that was Jack.
Eh,
Jackalope horns.
do you think he has another one, or is he going to maneuver away? I mean, maneuvering away is safe. If you use another one, I think it would indicate you're sacrificing him.
He's thinking about it.
Yeah. Do you?
He'll
Okay.
move it up.
There he goes.
So for you mentally, is it like getting 2 off? There's kind of a threshold where you think, okay, he's kind of done his duty. 6, you really, I know, we saw just yesterday, really kind of fighting. The Jackalope had like 1 health. I think that was against InGen, right? And John was massively fighting to keep him alive to try to get those horns out. For you, is 2 enough, or would you kind of try to hold on to him and get that 3rd one?
It depends on the fighter. I think against Medusa, she's 16. Bigfoot needs that threat.
Yeah.
Against a lower health fighter, I might say 2's enough.
Hold on.
Sure. I know it helps.
And here we're seeing Baskerville show, its strength.
Yeah.
There he goes across the map. 1 maneuver. Still within striking distance of the Harpies. But Medusa would have to boost to get to him.
Yeah. You could defend Hoax against a Harpy or Skirmish. It might be a Clutching Claws, you lose a card, but you don't take any damage. What you don't
Yeah.
want is a second shot.
I have some fun trivia for you that I looked up for earlier and it didn't come into play. What do you think is the most selected map across the tournaments?
Selected.
It is the only one in the triple digits.
I would go with Sarpedon.
You'd be correct.
It's oldie but a goodie, you know?
Yeah.
It's like pretty, it's probably a comfort level. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
And
when I
most,
looked,
is most banned Baskerville?
I don't think I marked that one down.
It'd be
I have
Rapid Paddock, Baskerville, or Huron. It has to be one of the more gimmicky maps.
You don't
Some
think
people just-
Yukon? I guess Yukon is very opponent specific.
Yeah, and it's more player style, whereas some people just don't feel comfortable. Nice regroup attack there.
So you get your effect first.
get rid of a skirmish.
Okay, and then I'll take my draw.
Yeah, so Sarpedon, when I looked it up, was at 99 plays, and then we saw it today. So it's the only one in the triple digits.
Oh,
Nice.
milestone. Witnessing
Yeah.
history.
Okay, there's Jackalope Horns number 2.
There it goes.
Yeah, that's the reason why the defense is a 4.
Yeah. To guarantee you weren't taking any damage. Keep them alive for sure.
Medusa's already down at 9. Wow.
Yeah, she has taken quite a bit of damage, and Bigfoot is still at full health.
And again, you see Bigfoot 5 cards, but if he just maneuvers into his zone purple and uses his abilities back to 7, he's not easy to face in this match.
Back to purple he goes.
Yeah. That purple zone here reminds me of also there's another purple zone on Marmorial, right? Which is really
Yeah, it
a
is.
nice place to camp for. I wonder if that's is that on purpose? Do you think the designers purple means good against ranged?
Something to look out for in future sets, right?
Yeah, maybe. I'm just kidding. I don't think
I didn't use the ability. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, it
No,
doesn't
it's
look
okay.
like it did.
so. No, he did not.
It's funny
I-
because you guys were thinking most banned maps like Yukon and Hirot and Basker, but they are not the least picked. So it would indicate they're not banned all that much. The least picked is the high school, Sunnydale High School.
Yeah, it's just overlooked. It's very neutral, and people are looking for advantages rather than even matches.
Go there, let's attack Jackalope with the Harpy.
Yeah, that one's only at 25 picks, so pretty large disparity.
But yeah, if you practice, I think you get comfortable. You can throw your opponent off.
My personal favorite is the bronze. I like that.
Bronze is fun.
Yeah, it's a fun
Then it's a ship.
Ooh,
one. Right.
And a momentous.
good defense.
This defense.
So I
Those are
draw.
defensive.
I mean, it is nice as an attack, but I think it's smart just playing your defenses.
And
Against
advance
Medusa.
this card.
Who is that going to be a discard? Very rare to see that from Medusa.
Well, guys, do you have any predictions based on how the match has gone so far? Final outcome of this?
Well, I think Bigfoot's managed to do a good amount of damage on Medusa without really getting too tangled up you know,
Discard a Gaze of Stone.
with her.
Is he discarding a gaze of stone?
It looked like it, yeah. There it
Wow.
went.
Yeah.
It was not an undefended gaze, which would have been weird.
That would have been
That would have
very
been a game
different.
changer.
We would have all been talking a different tune at that point.
Yeah, I don't think he can attack anybody, so that would have also been strange.
You must wonder what's in his hand to make him discard such a good card.
Yeah. You asked the question, Josh, before we saw the discard. Where how you feel like it's going for Bigfoot at this point?
Oh,
I mean, I think it's
John
you know.
asked that, but yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I think you got to be happy with where you are. Like not having a big, no big throwdowns. Bigfoot hasn't taken a point of damage. I mean, he hasn't ended a turn next to her, right? Or maybe
Bigfoot attacks
maybe the jackalope
Harpy.
took the damage if I missed it. But the harpies are coming to them, and you know we got one winged frenzy out. Okay, so that was defended, but
So he doesn't win and get the
Taking
effect
down
there.
opposition.
right, so he can bring
Yeah.
back one more harpy, but
No, it's just movement.
no, I know.
Well-
I'm just saying in general in the
Oh.
game where it's
Oh,
at
in
right
general.
now. Yeah. So
But two horns are gone. I think the harpy use of blocking Medusa off from taking is kind of edge case right now.
yeah, no, I think that he's got to be very happy with where he is right now.
Yeah.
Sojourn
Hold
is.
on.
And this is maybe where that, that psychological pump up comes in. He wins this, maybe he wins it by a decidedly big margin,
Yeah.
and he goes into that third game with a renewed confidence that could help.
Sure.
At the very least, maybe winning Heftily revives him from his lack of sleep, gives him an energy shot.
I wonder if Medusa's holding hisses just because, like, he's not attacking with them, so that if he has 2 or 3, that would clog up his hand for John.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, he might want to be attacked right now for that exact reason. If half of his hand is hiss and slither, it doesn't give him a lot of offensive options.
I will.
It could also be a reason why he got rid of Gaze of Stone, because you don't want to get rid of hiss and slither.
Do a maneuver.
Yeah. I'm surprised Sojourne isn't digging the last ones. I think once you get that down, Medusa will be at 7. If you can deal a log against a hiss, that's 2 damage. If you do it twice, that's Medusa down to 3. But we'll see.
Maybe he's still digging for it.
Card draws are pretty even so far.
Okay, Harpy will attack Jackalope.
And we're seeing a harpy attack. I'm assuming on the jackalope.
Yes, it is. Is it another bait? I think one thing John has to be careful for is Medusa running out of defenses, because he's used a lot of versatile cards for attack.
Yeah,
And
and a lot of common cards, like you said, or any. I mean,
yeah,
Yep.
okay, that's another crashing through the trees.
You get your hopes back, and then it's your turn.
That is the second Clutching Claws. There's one more. That was the final crash through the trees.
It's a non-card if you consider defending against gaze, so it hasn't helped John.
no, not yet. And earlier, Josh, you said, this isn't a match that goes towards exhaustion. So to that end, crashing through the trees is a little less important.
Well, easy things first.
Yeah, and ability. Oh, there they go.
There we go.
You had to pull off all the horns.
That's
didn't
all
ya?
three used.
I mean, we are
Jackalope has
two-thirds of the way through the
done
deck
his
already,
duty.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. That's true.
But he's got a maneuver here. I think you can't afford attack and leave yourself with 2 cards.
Yep. The pesky rabbit.
A lot of consideration going into this
Yeah.
positioning.
Is Bigfoot could discard a boost to get to the blue, but if you use your ability, that it's no net gain of cards, so
Right. If he likes what he has, it might not be advantageous.
Splitting them up here is going to make John choose. Do I go for the Jackalope or do I go for Bigfoot? And I think at this point, the horns are gone. I don't think you focus on Jackalope anymore.
yeah. If there's one more moment strip, I'd like to see that being used offensively to deal some damage against Medusa. Then maybe sacrifice the Jack after that.
Yeah.
I think
Medusa.
Sojourne has gotten, the most you can want out of his Jackalope.
Yeah.
So if he also
Right.
gets Momentous Shift off, that's the icing on the cake. Frank, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to agree with you. I was going to say that Medusa still has one feint. So it's kind of telegraphed. Maybe he would use it to bait the feint with a regroup or something. But yeah, try to get one more go at her.
Start off with Winged Frenzy.
Big frenzy.
Winged Frenzy.
And this is the final one of those. So this is the
Correct.
last Harpy that will be rejoining us.
Could pin Bigfoot. I don't think that's something you want.
That would be a bold strategy.
He's doing a soft pin. It keeps Bigfoot in the zone without actually leaving him adjacent.
And then I'll maneuver.
Savagery would be good here, though.
Yeah, and that
Take 2
spot where
Harpies out
he-
at once.
Exactly right.
Have you seen both Harpy 4s?
Just one, I think.
We've just seen
Okay.
one, so he's got one Hounds of Mighty Zeus still.
But if you maneuver an attack that's 4 cards, Medusa will double attack. And you don't get your ability because you're stuck in the zone.
Does he have a hoax left? Because he could move attack and then get out of there with
He's-
hoax.
I think I would save that for defensive to avoid a double attack.
I'll run to the toilet. Can think a bit more.
Sure, yeah.
He
yeah,
has
no
2
problem.
hoaxes left. He just played his first one before. Yeah, Joshua, to your point, that savagery, just explaining what you were referring to, that would, if he moves 1 space, if Bigfoot moves 1 space to his left and attacks, he can deal 1 damage to the adjacent fighters, and he would be adjacent to both of those
If he
fighters.
wins, so that's
he
why the Mighty Hounds of Zeus with being a 4 matters.
That's right.
Yeah, and John has a big hand, you know. It's a risk. Looks like John is still finalizing the positioning on that.
Yeah, he probably doesn't want to invite a savagery. But yeah, he also doesn't want Bigfoot to get a Medusa. It's a tough choice.
Thinking about, Bigfoot normally being good into pins because he has options to move through the opposing fighters. Sojourne discard. He chose to discard both of his crash through the trees, which is a scheme that would let him do that.
Yeah, those schemes could have come in handy right now.
Yeah, but if he has a hoax, even if you take a second shot at this point, you get out, you don't get double attack. I would be happy.
I'll just keep the Harpy over.
John knows there's a lot on the line here with this positioning.
Yeah.
Hmm. This seems like the optimal positioning, but do you think maybe he doesn't have a hounds and he's concerned about going into a savagery? That's why
It's
he's
possible. But it's so risky going to savagery at this point. Double attack. It's gonna run you out of cards.
Yep.
Almost. I think if I was Sojourne, I would like to defend the hoax and get out of there. Just double maneuver, build up your hand. Going for the savagery.
Attack the top half.
I think John might feign it if he loses 1 harpy but not 2.
So,
It's a win.
fucking savagery me here.
Yeah, he does have 1 feint left.
Again, you don't want to feign a lot.
I'll defend.
It's momentous.
Clutching claws.
That's the
Okay,
last
flip it.
clause.
Okay, and regroup.
And my turn.
That is
So-
3 cards in hand.
Yep.
Wow.
Deal you the ping.
So why wouldn't
I will.
yeah. He could have brought the jackalope over and done that same attack. I don't know. He could have done that against Medusa as well, actually.
Mm,
Oh, that's a good point because of the door.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think he wants the harpy gone. That is the
Yeah.
last clutching clause.
That is, yes.
Start start with.
But he got all three of them out, which was one of the things we said he definitely wanted to do.
Was one fainted?
What do you have?
No.
Possibly.
No, he discarded
No?
two crash
Oh, right.
trees, and then actually I missed what did he discard that time? Did he flip it over? Is it still face up?
As a regroup.
Oh, it's a regroup.
Mm,
Was that his second regroup?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see them both there.
So there are 3 hisses left, and that's what Medusa needs to win.
Bigfoot still has both logs. So you want
Yeah, but
you definitely want to use Hiss and Slither there.
the question now is, can actually Bigfoot deal 7 damage? He's used all his shit. You would have to bait out 3 hisses, I think. And then deal 6 damage over 2 threes. I'm not sure. It's really hard to say. Card counts are pretty even, but Bigfoot's turn up next.
Josh, it's a little blurry on my screen. Can you tell me what the deck counts are?
I think it's 9 to 10. I could be wrong.
I think that's what I see.
Okay.
Imagination this, but I expect that's a good. Oh,
Okay.
Okay. There we see.
Not what you want to see there.
alright.
You hate to see it.
That was the
That's-
snipe
Yeah.
that she played? That
Yep.
Medusa played? Yeah. Final snipe.
I think that was the first. It's just your imagination, right?
Yes.
Okay. So still one of those left.
And one
And
feint.
One
So
faint.
I think now you want Medusa to burn cards to take out the Jackalope. So if you can hide behind him, just don't defend, but force her to use cards, that would be good.
I think he heard you.
Done.
Okay. I will maneuver.
It's tough though because Medusa still has 3 forced discards.
That's right.
And Bigfoot, by my count, is running pretty low on defense, at least from what he started with.
He's got a feint, 2 hoaxes, which are 4s. He's got 1 regroup, which is not going to help him at this point because of the draw. And he's got 2 skirmishes, which are
Skirmish?
4s.
Okay.
And 1, it's just your imagination.
Yeah, so what is he looking at? He's looking at 7 defenses left, which, based on deck counts, could carry him through. But if Medusa starts getting real aggressive, it could go a different way.
And then maneuver again.
And Bigfoot can barely afford to discard a boost now. Interesting.
I think John's going to have some hiss and slithers that he wants to use.
I think if Sojourne can sacrifice the Jackalope to attack with a feint and bait out a hiss, that would be a pretty big win. Every card you save and discarding is good.
Okay. Your turn.
I think that, I mean, It's an interesting one. That would have been a good, if that Momentous had still been in the hand, I think that would have been a risk. But now, the Jackalope is going to be attacking with a valuable defense card, right? I mean, I think John.
Yeah. Yeah, any attack that the Jackalope uses is pulling from Bigfoot's defense, but I do like Josh's idea of attacking with the feint.
Don't you think you have
Doesn't-
to do that with Bigfoot, though? I don't think it would work with the Jackalope.
You don't think so?
I don't know. What would I mean? He would have to use a skirmish, right? It would be a
Because,
4 or hoax, I guess, to do damage.
They
Otherwise,
probably defend something else. What defenses does Medusa have right now aside from the hisses?
Maneuver.
if I'm still on it, I've got 2 dashes, a feint, 2 regroups, and then 3 hiss, all 3 hiss and slithers.
Yeah, that's what I got too. I've also got one hounds
Yeah,
still
one
left.
hound.
Any snipe?
No, all
Nope.
snipe gone.
Okay.
Frank, I've also got her at 2 Gaze of Stone left.
Yep.
Is that right?
And
And then second
Is
shot,
it
I
2
have
second shots?
2 left.
2
Okay.
second shots and then 2 momentary glances.
Cool.
And I had
I mean-
the hounds as well. I just was only.
You almost want Medusa to discard a gaze for a second shot at this point. It is better to take damage over 4 rather than 10 damage later on.
We have to think, that Medusa is that Bigfoot is down to 2 cancels from a total of 5 with only 1 second shot.
Yeah.
Out. I mean, that's pretty good. I would say it's a good outcome for John. 0.
I would agree. Now it's just going to be a matter of getting those cancels out. Baiting them
Yeah,
out
with-
on something other than second
Mm.
shot.
I would like to see a feint attack into his though, especially with Bigfoot now, and he can still maneuver away after.
Medusa will attack Bigfoot.
No, this might be a dash.
If this is a regroup, he feints it, that could be real good for John.
Be a really big play. Yeah. There's no way you can take a Medusa attack in the face. But if he does take it and it is a regroup, that would be a big play.
Equally big, right?
Yeah.
Well, this is where the mind games start, right? Because it's like, would I?
I don't think you can take 10 damage. You risk. Yeah, there's
Now,
the second
there's the
shot.
second shot.
3 damage.
Not fainted, but skirmish is a pretty high defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not
You can move one of
this
them.
guy.
That's your turn.
I think he knows second shot is not gonna be enough to win. He's just using it to draw out another defense. Okay.
So does that mean that Bigfoot wants to
Attack
double attack
and
here?
then move. No, maybe attack and move. If you double attack into his, that will hurt. If you feint a his and move. No.
Oh, he's not doing either of those things.
Oh, okay. He's doing that, but maybe you're not letting the ability get off. Interesting.
He's down to 4 cards, though. Does he really want to draw more at this point?
Yeah. No, I mean Medusa's ability.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Think.
I'm just kind of looking at the cards that each have left over, and I don't think it's clear cut. I think Medusa can still take this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not clear. You need more attacks than Medusa, but that's really not easy. So now you have to imagine there are at least 2 hisses left. Maybe at least 1 in hand.
Yeah, earlier, Josh, you said that you thought he had at least 2 in hand, and I think that that's been true since then. I think that you probably read that situation right.
Let's see the first hit has slipped up.
Okay, we're seeing Sojourne
Whatever
attack.
this is over here, can you
Assuming-
flip this?
Oh, that was a shift.
It was okay.
With
okay.
Bigfoot.
But again, mind games. If
That's okay.
John thinks he's using a feint to attack a hiss and defense is something else,
Yep.
I mean, Surgeon could maybe try to sneak in a 6 here.
Last action, right?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll find out here. It's a hiss.
What do you got?
into a
Okay, he
sphere.
discards
One down.
regroup.
2 more to go.
Yeah.
So no effect from savagery there.
Yeah.
Nothing.
You want Savagery into Snipe, but they're all gone.
Ability, right?
His dash will make her run, and his doesn't win. And you'd be happy with a feint too, but
I think that went well for Medusa there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think especially if you look at her defenses, he must have been expecting the hiss though, right? I would have thought.
Yeah, I mean hiss,
Sojourne with
or like Josh said, maybe he makes him think he's attacking with feint to bait it out,
Mm-hmm.
and so then, he throws out a dash or something on a log and takes 3 damage.
Right.
Would you like to glance at the jackalope?
So we see the
now the 2 hisses at 2 logs. If you can bait out 1 hiss,
Because he's
you can deal a little extra damage, but
how. So I mean, I'm sure it's key for Sojourn to try to get that feint on the hiss because he's down to
Yeah.
8 cards, and not savagery is probably the one that he would be most inclined to get rid of. But he doesn't have any obvious discards any longer, right? If you think, oh, you have to throw 2 cards out of your hand, it's not
Right.
an easy decision.
I agree with that.
You
With
think-
this few cards.
Bigfoot has to. Do you think Bigfoot has to take 1 undefended attack a little bit earlier so you know it's not a gaze?
Oh, there's the second shot
Um,
over
No,
skirmish.
I'm not gonna boost.
He's not going to boost. I think given John, the way he's playing it, he's just wearing Bigfoot down.
You want your skirmish effect?
You're right. No boost. So he's still got 4 auto damage from the schemes then.
Yeah, and those are passes. But
Well, he's not going to be boosting with them.
yeah,
oh, it's fine.
Not anymore, I guess.
Second
Bigfoot
action.
down to 4 defenses.
Um,
And we don't know their hands. I mean, that could be a really bad makeup of those defenses still being in his deck to be drawn.
That's right.
I'll
well, there's not much left in his deck for them to stay.
Yeah, they're coming out sooner rather than later. That is a good point.
Now Medusa's taking advantage of the purple zone to ping Bigfoot if he attacks.
My, how the turntables.
I think one thing Bigfoot needed to do a bit earlier while he could afford to is treasure Medusa, but it's not easy.
I almost would have liked to have seen the Harpy go right to the left of the Jackalope there, because any attack the Jackalope uses is one less
Alright, your turn.
defense for Bigfoot right
Yeah.
now. So it's a little bit of a safe positioning. Or if the Harpy gets attacked, you win. You still win. That.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just want to get that card out of play.
Right.
You have to think. I mean, my feeling is that this is swung towards Medusa, despite the 15 health. I
Yeah.
guess there's some math to be done on the damage in like the exhaustion game, but
The health disparity is the one thing keeping me, because like you
Yeah.
just said, I'm not smart enough to do the math on Medusa's damage output and what she's capable of. But just looking at
The
the
moment
card,
you get a gaze, it's a 10 if it's undefended. I think Sojourne has to take risks now. You can't afford to take it when there's absolute hand knowledge later. At least the good thing about Bigfoot being 15 is he could take an undefended gaze and still be alive.
do you think he might have to do that?
It might not be a gaze. I mean, it could be a regroup. There's still one more. You're not going to defend with it.
Medusa, I think she has 2 regroups. Still.
Yeah, 2. By my count, 2.
Yeah.
See, he puts the Jackalope there, but I don't know that there's any real threat.
It's just to block Medusa from running to the passage and getting away.
Just a quick check, John. Do you have Bigfoot at 1 feint, 2 hoax, 1 imagination, 2 logs, and 1 savagery?
That's correct. That's what I have him at. I put the physical dex in front of me to count because I'm not.
Oh, that's
cool,
nice.
I'm not cool enough for the like apps, and I'm always worried that like if I cut away or if I pay too much attention to that, I'm gonna just completely screw everything up because I'm not very technologically literate. Plus, it's nice looking through the art and everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure.
I can't ping, so I'll start with a maneuver.
Yeah, I do. Could see the advantages. You can also easily read all the text in the cards and stuff. I use unmatched cards, and it's great. They have a compact view, but then you have to kind of expand it to read, and I think it would be much quicker, to your point, just to have it right in front of you.
Yeah. Well, when John and I did our Swiss match, he was using it on his phone, but he was also hosting Vorpal through that.
Yeah.
Really good match. That was
glitch.
I was watching that one. Yeah.
Yeah, so it just kept killing the video. So that didn't make me want to do it with technology anymore.
the deck counts, and now I believe it's 2 to 5.
It's a little blurry for me. The 5 looks right. The 2 could also be a 3. I can't really tell.
Yeah.
Okay,
These
it
are
is 2 to 5.
passes, though, with
2 to 5.
momentary glance.
Frank, are you also seeing that Medusa still has Hounds of Mighty Zeus, one of those?
Yep, still has one of those. I have Medusa at 2 glance, 2 dash, a feint, 2 gaze, 2 hiss, a regroup, or no, 2 regroups rather, and 1 hounds.
Maybe.
So what do you have?
Yes, it is.
Perfect.
And he's got the 2 harpies. I wonder if he is gonna, or if he's planning on utilizing that card at all in an attack against Jackalope.
I can't see what the downside would be, right? I can't see why John would attack with the Jackalope at this point, right? Because you're gonna. It's pretty clear it's either a feint or a hoax. And so why wouldn't you go for Bigfoot and force him to use a defense, not take 4 damage? But yeah, for sure, it's a versatile.
Yeah.
He's just
Interesting.
He's gonna move. Yeah, now you hide, and now you have to attack the harpy. And that harpy will be replaced by another harpy.
This overdraw will have John get rid of. There it is, the regroup. I figured
Okay.
that's what he would choose.
That's actually my number.
We've seen a lot of matches either come close to exhaustion or actually be decided by it. And I think, what are your thoughts about that, Frank?
I think it's kind of a natural. It's nice to know your opponent's cards, right? And so I think when there's a lot of strategizing, when you are considering all the options and placements and taking all the factors of the game in the consideration, getting to a point where you have, John is 1 card away from absolute certainty what's in his opponent's hand, right? And so I think your ability to control the outcome becomes much surer when you're at that point, right? And so it also forces you to play at a kind of a higher level from the spacing, because if you are
With who?
going to take damage every time you maneuver, then
Bigfoot into the harpy.
you have a very. It's kind of like you mentioned chess before. It's much more like a chess match, right? Where you're thinking several moves ahead, and how this is unfolding. So,
That's
at this level, I guess it's not surprising. It's something that I feel like we've seen a lot more of as.
And you maneuver first, so I'll...
That was a savage and undefended savagery.
He was
Undefended
forced to use
savagery. I mean,
against the harpy, though.
Against the harpy, yeah.
yeah, the positioning that John has selected here is going to be really strong for him, because that's one of Bigfoot's 3 big attacks left. Because the other attacks he really probably wants to save for defense at this point.
The thing is, the next John is gonna, unless he can pull the feint off, Sojourne will discard at least 1 card for sure, right, when he attacks.
I'll start
Yes.
with
Medusa.
Yes.
Bigfoot.
And if he can't pull the feint
And
off, he's
Medusa's
gonna-
nowhere near exhaustion.
Correct.
He took it. I called that he absolutely needs to take 1 or 2. And hope.
Well,
Took a feint. Man, I'm sure John was wishing he'd played
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
something else.
I think I know John well enough. He doesn't gamble so much on these. I think someone like Baked Goods, he might, but John really isn't the type of person to do it. Unless, you know, you establish that entire playing style and then just one game, you pull it off. Because
Well, that
you're not.
definitely will throw somebody for a loop too if they're studying how you play.
So did we see that? That was Medusa's first action, is that right? We
Yes.
expect her
Yes.
to maneuver that harpy back into that open space, I would imagine.
I would think, yeah, you'd maneuver the harpy back in.
Yeah.
The only thing I can think of is that he's worried about. Oh
Glance,
no,
Bigfoot.
Nah,
Gonna
just
glance.
tossing.
Your turn.
He's trying to bait Bigfoot into maneuver and attack.
Maneuver.
which he will do. I'm assuming hiss and slither.
Probably. He has 3. No, 2.
2.
So I think is this what we're gonna see? Is he gonna go faint here? Is this his chance?
He's no longer at the point where he can take a gaze. That, I think, is key.
Right.
So you think the time of attacking with feint is gone?
With Bigfoot.
He
No.
had
Did
to.
it? He pulled it
but-
off.
But it's not enough damage because he can attack into a feint. And into
Bigfoot for 1.
hiss and slither for 2 damage, and
Yeah.
he can attack into a dash for 3, but that's 5.
So if you look at what, yeah, I can't see Bigfoot coming away with this. You look at just there are 2 dashes. That's 6 damage. You've got you can skip the route. 2 gaze of stone, and then hounds. He's exhausted. He could move. If I were John, I'd probably try to get that harpy in there and just attack with that 4, right? Just make him either take it or defend it.
Yeah. Well then, I don't know, because
I'll
if you defend with
maneuver.
like hoax, then maybe you get across
I
the
think,
board in a way you
yes,
didn't want him
Surgeon's
to.
only hope is that John doesn't have the final one.
This is true.
He's gonna make him discard a boost, and that's just gonna hurt. You have 5 cards, you really can't afford to do it, but you have to.
I'll maneuver again.
Is he gonna leave the harpy up there? I guess he has to boost either way. And then that gives him the potential to attack.
Your turn.
Well, he has to attack either way.
Maneuver, so
Jackalope's
I think the
gone.
advantage of leaving the
Yeah.
harpy there is that when Bigfoot comes through that central passage to get to him, then the harpy could come down and attack the next turn.
Yeah. I think the game's definitely swung, and John's played really well to get Bigfoot in such a position.
yeah, I think the game's lost already.
I think so. but
Absolutely.
Give it your best shot.
He dropped like 7 health really early on, right? He was sitting on 9 health.
Yeah.
For,
He was at 9, and we were all kind of surprised at how much damage he had taken. But that was pretty early, and now he's at 7 health. He's only moved 2 health down in all that
Yeah,
time.
because
What is this? Flip it.
he's discarding a hoax
yeah.
at this point.
And this is going to be a log. Yep. So
It's gonna be
It is 3 damage.
interesting. Not a
I
hiss.
will not.
He might not have it.
Bring you for 1.
But he's gonna draw. You could just draw 2 cards and guarantee. Unless he's really, really unlucky.
Did I bless my deck?
Yeah, but Medusa can even hide behind the harpy if that
Just
yellow.
kidding, I would hate to mess up
And
the
Bigfoot
final.
doesn't have enough cards to get to Medusa.
If he does that, that's game, right? If he just
Yeah, it is, because you can't discard a boost, attack the harpy, and
with
attack Medusa.
a momentary glance.
It's gonna do a glance,
And then I maneuver.
and it's gonna maneuver.
And
well, he's just gonna secure that
here and
with the glance
Yeah.
there. Yeah,
And that is it.
and that's game. All
Well
right,
played.
Wow.
very well played. Why don't we check in with them and hear what they're talking
Yeah.
about post game?
last card in deck was my
Ah.
Kiss, and I had these in hand.
It was the last card.
And you had what? A larger than life
Imagination.
hope and an imagination. Here, flip them. Let's see.
Oh.
Just so the stream can see it, you know. Yeah. So my game plan going into this one was like I had to make sure not to boost second shot. I think that's the way to play this matchup. I think you need to keep the threat there, and you have to hold on to your gazes because it's an exhaustion matchup for Medusa. I don't think you're ever going to get through Bigfoot's defenses trying to play a normal game. So you just got to fatigue, and you got to try to run him out of defenses so you can land the gaze at the end to finish, or just do a standard fatigue game like this. And you don't want to use your hisses against logs. As much as that seems counterintuitive almost, you want to use things like dash against logs because you're going to take the log damage no matter what. You're better off using hiss against savageries because then you won't take the bonus
Yeah.
damage.
I think my critical mistake was, it's not really a mistake, but it was a gamble. So there was this part where you had the harpies like this.
Yep.
So I had the savagery, but I didn't savagery.
I knew that obviously I was opening myself up to it, and I knew that you knew that. So if you went in and you defend, or you hit with savagery and I defend with Zeus, that was really bad for you, right? Because then your savagery's gone, you're stuck in the pin for even longer.
I was expecting you to feign that actually.
Really? I thought about you maybe attacking with a skirmish and getting out, but if you did that, I was like, well, that's fine. That's a defense
Yeah.
down, so I don't care.
Yeah, because I think I needed the shift of 5 damage. As
Yeah.
Offense. So
Right.
rather than a 4, so that was painful. Ouch.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't use my regroups because I didn't draw them until really late, which sucked because I wanted, obviously, as Medusa, you want to bait out like the cancels with regroups if you can.
Yeah.
But I didn't draw them early, so by the time I drew them, I couldn't even use them. I wasn't going to defend with them because I draw, and I'm not going to attack with them for the risk that you don't even defend. I was really trying to aggro down Jackalope at the start, but that just didn't work out because you have too many good defenses. But I was able to whittle out some defenses for the long game, and sadly, you got all 3 horns. I was about to momentary glance Jackalope if I could have stopped one of the horns, but I couldn't get him down to 2. You wouldn't let that happen. You kept playing around my ability really well, so I wasn't really able to get him down to that 2 health threshold to ping him off because there's no way I'm getting through him by just attacking. I need that auto damage.
Yeah, I only drew log. I think only until my last 5 cards or so. That's my second and third log. That was sad. Yeah, but I
Wait.
think
Your second to what? Your what was it the last 5?
my second and third logs.
All the logs. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is really unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that was. Yeah, I wish Jackalope could have taken 1 free hit, but the problem was that every time I drew horns, I had to keep him alive for 1 more turn. Which is, I always had to play 1 more defense. I really wish he could have just taken like 1 free hit. I was just happy to have him do it, but it was always
Right.
on a maneuver. I was like, okay, I got the horns, I got to do it next. I got to defend him next turn.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
exactly.
I wouldn't have been spending so much defenses on it. Arguably, maybe not spending 1 defense on him would have been fine. Yeah, but I think at that time I was thinking too much about. It's the fact that you just drew horns and then you can defend him, then you think like, okay, let's just defend him.
Yeah,
I think-
yeah, right.
But I think just sucking up and just like, okay, it's okay. I've already gotten 2 horns off. The last horns, if it doesn't work, that's fine. Because I think there were a couple of times where he was at 4 health, so he wouldn't have died anyway. Or something like that.
That's true, yeah. But the thing was, like, he wouldn't have died unless I used a second shot on him, right? And then had to boost it even. So, good thinking. You know, when he's at 4, he's pretty safe to just take a hit, at least from Medusa. If it's a Harpy, you can't really, because if it's Zeus, you know, he'll die. But with Medusa, you're totally fine from 4 health taking a hit.
Yeah. And
now,
you attack with a Zeus because you want them for defense on the Harpy.
That's true. Yeah. So my big question is, when I attacked with Feint into Jackalope and you defended with a regroup, was that your only defense, or why toss the regroup?
I think I didn't. I think, as in,
that was really early in the game.
I did remember. I think I did have a second shot. I did have a sorry, I did have a feint.
You did have a feint.
I didn't think you would second shot so early.
Sure. So it was between feint and regroup. So you didn't have a 4. You might not remember, but
I think that was very early in the game.
It was very early. It was like maybe turn 2 or 3.
I definitely had a momentous shift, I think. I'm not sure whether I had a 4, but I definitely had a shift.
Sure, but shifts are valuable for offense to guarantee a kill on a Harpy too, so I guess I would understand not wanting to use a shift and not wanting to use a feint so early as well, so yeah, I guess.
I just got a feeling that it was probably a regroup or something.
A bait attack.
So that worked.
Yeah, and I was really upset, obviously, because I knew I was going into this with the mindset of it's a fatigue matchup, and I didn't want to stop you from drawing cards. So I was like, dang it, not only did I like waste a feint, I only dealt 1 damage, and I stopped him from drawing. So I was really kind of upset about that one. I was like, oh man, that was huge.
Yeah, I think small mistakes also. There were sometimes when I was greedy and I took the extra draw trying to find my lock, but nope.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with Bigfoot, man. You just gotta keep your ability under control, because it can be so powerful in times if you're being aggressive, but if you're playing to the long game, like, you almost never use it because it always comes back to haunt you almost.
Yeah, because I thought just doing it once would be fine, but I think I did it a couple of times, which, I was just trying to find like additional stuff to attack with, like, where are my logs? But no logs.
Yeah, right. Hey, it's like when I faced your friend Sowie, and I thought I had that game won, so I just started turboing through my deck to find the horns and the logs against Muldoon, and then he found this corner space up here, and I was like, well, crap, I might have just thrown the game right there.
Yeah, but I remember that game, there were a lot of traps which you could have popped beforehand, but I think you did the last part.
Yeah, exactly. I always try, I want to make Muldoon put down too many traps in the early game and play around them and not run into them, and then at the end, just pop them all at once. Because if you try and just keep popping them as you go, you give him so much ammo, like hand count, you know, that he can just use to keep attacking you, and then you don't really get anywhere with it. You're just taking damage and taking attacks for nothing. So try and let him build up.
I think the game until that moment where I used the savagery, I should have used the savagery here.
Ooh. That would have been huge. Yeah, that's your critical mistake there for your AAR. But I mean, overall though, obviously you always play really well, so it was awesome to play against you here, and it was awesome to get a rematch too. Big 3 involved this time, so it was a little different. It felt a lot different, but well played overall.
All right, so I guess in the finals you're gonna meet your sparring partner.
I am. It's gonna be crazy, man. Not only does he know more about my strategies and everything than anybody else, but we play against each other all the time, so we know like our play styles, and also it's a best of 5 instead of best of 3, so it's almost like a new format. So anything goes. I have no idea what's gonna happen.
How does that do?
All right. So there you have it. It looks like we've got John, zeroskatr12, going on to the finals. It's going to be the battle of the tournament organizers. John and Joshua, friends, sparring partners. You just heard it from John's mouth. Nobody knows the strategies better than you.
It goes both ways.
I'm sure that's true. So some interesting insight from that post-game analysis, right? John revealed that from the beginning, he was looking at this as a fatigue matchup, and he was playing that way from his very first move, which I thought was very insightful.
Yeah, I think it was kind of the opposite of what we had been discussing, right? That this was like going to be a slugfest, and he took that damage early, but really managed to stay, like we were discussing before, at that 9 and kind of 7 health for many turns. So he had a plan, sounds like, and he executed it.
Yeah, it's funny because I think the term I used in the beginning of the match was explosive. So this is going to be an explosive match. Meanwhile, John's philosophy heading in was, we're going to just play this real cool. We're going to stretch this out as long as it can go. So that was interesting.
I wonder, looking back, we didn't talk. Well, I don't know. I can't remember. It's been a little while. But did we talk a lot about the ban of Dracula? Like, why would he let Medusa come through instead of Drac, do you think? Do you think Sojourne will think about that when he's kind of reconsidering the choices coming in?
I want to pass that off to Josh, especially since you've played and practiced so much with John, if you think the banning of Dracula was the right call.
I think from Sojourne's point of view, if you think InGen has a better chance against Medusa than Dracula, you go for it. I'm of the perspective that it isn't, so I would have still faced Drac even though it's not great. But it's a really tough call to make, I think.
Yeah, I get. Sorry, go ahead.
Nah, I'm out of stuff.
Yeah, I was just gonna say. I mean, for me, it seems like Medusa's in the auto ban category for really tough fighters. So I would have been with you. I would have rolled the dice on Dracula, I think, as opposed to trying to take down Medusa.
I would have done the same. I would have banned Medusa and played Drac. But I mean, I've seen it a couple of times in the tournament. Metapin, who was a quarterfinalist, would frequently allow Medusa through because he felt really confident in his little red matchup against Medusa, and we saw that work out for him several times. He even won that in the quarterfinals. So it's not unheard of to think that you are going to fare better against Medusa than maybe somebody's like skilled chosen champion.
Yeah, and some people pick to draw the ban not actually because they're great with the fighter. And if you suddenly are forced to play Medusa unprepared, it can throw you off. Of course, at this level, it doesn't quite work out that way. All these players are used to playing as maybe not all comfort picks, but they all have experience.
Yeah. Another one that John revealed was, he said this is going to sound counterintuitive, and I thought, well, for sure, because we were saying the opposite, is when he said you don't want to use hissing slithers on larger than life. And I was like, oh, interesting, because our whole commentary was
that is true though, because if you can use it against savagery, you don't take any damage, but if you use a snipe against savagery, you take 2 damage.
Yeah, it was a really interesting insight, and it's a very high level insight as well. So we're going to be getting ready to do some interviews with Sojourne and with John. So those will be coming up here real soon. We're going to start with Sojourne. So stay tuned, guys. We're coming right back with that. All right, welcome back, everybody. We're live with Sojourne.
Hey,
Hello.
How's it going?
Yeah, pretty fun. Regardless of how the match went, I hope that was entertaining for everybody to both watch.
I think that we had a good time watching, right?
Oh, it was there were 2 amazing matches. Are you kidding? They were fantastic. Yeah, really well.
Okay,
well played.
I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions.
Yeah, let's get right into it then. I love that. So I wanted to ask you, going into today's match, you're undefeated up till now, right? You haven't lost a match yet. You have beaten John before. So what was your mindset? What was your philosophy coming in? What were you thinking you wanted to set out to accomplish here?
Um, I actually wanted to go in playing red, but I think at the last moment I didn't for some reason. So I thought just today we just play normally, but that didn't work out also. But that was the actual plan. It was like, because to tell the honest truth, during the Swiss itself, I wasn't expecting to make the top 8 until I beat Zero in my third game or something like that. So before that, I was just like, just, just having concentrating more on fun, and then yeah, and that was the only reason why I picked Raptors then. But obviously, in today's matchup, Raptors is probably out of the question, especially when you have Dracula and other big three in question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So-
that was. Well, go ahead, John.
No, Frank, take it away.
I was gonna. That was one thing that we noticed at the picks last time. I think you had done an agreement to no big three in your prior match, and so we knew we were probably gonna see drastically different picks from that first match. So,
Yeah.
go ahead, John. I'll let you run your questions. Sorry.
Well, I was actually gonna say the same thing about the gentleman's agreement, Frank.
yeah.
So great minds, yeah.
Steal
So
your thunder.
no, it's okay. That gentleman's agreement you had going on for the first 6 matches, I'm gonna assume obviously that was that even brought up for this one?
No, because I think at this level probably not. But I think that was my mistake in a way, because he gave me leader, and I took Ingen actually as my second pick. So for my last pick, I actually had a choice between Raid or whoever else that I wanted. But I saw Bigfoot, and on hindsight, I think that was my first mistake. I should have not taken Bigfoot, probably just taken Little Raid. Yeah. Because I would be confident of Bigfoot, Ingen and Raid into whatever the roster can throw at me.
Yeah. One thing we were wondering about earlier is your decision to ban Dracula instead of Medusa. So what was your thought process there?
Okay, I'm gonna admit it's 50% is because I haven't played much against Medusa this tournament. The other 50%, so 50% is I haven't played much Medusa, and I've played against quite a lot of Draculas here and there, and also in outside of this tournament also. So yeah, I wanted to try something, and I thought Bigfoot can take the fight to Medusa, and although I haven't really played much Ingen versus Medusa, I thought that I could give that a try.
All right. Joshua, do you have any questions for your fellow Singaporean?
Well,
Obviously, there's
I mean,
then Medusa, yeah, but
questions. Well, I think the 3 Singaporeans should meet up for a meal and really celebrate with our foils one day. Maybe they can send them all together.
yeah,
Well-
safe on shipping.
Well, the Deadly Strike Squad, the 3 of you guys, you made it to the quarterfinals. You were in the semifinals, Sojourne, and now Josh is moving on to the final. So definitely 3 people to watch moving forward.
Yeah. If there's one thing I gotta give a shout out to, it's all the people that I've been playing with on the Discord channel. So anybody who's watching and whoever played me before, then thanks. Because because I actually got into Unmatched about 1 year ago, but kind of dropped off. It was only a few months ago that I went back into the server and started asking like, hey, who wants to play? So played with Joe Nathan a lot. Shout out to him, Mika also. So all these plays, all these practices, I think kind of saw me through the Swiss rounds. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love
That's
to hear
great.
that.
Yeah, we commented before as well, Sojourn. Like I know I'm on that list of people. About a year ago, I think you were teaching me TTS. Josh had talked about that even Zero, you were one of the first people or the first person that Zero had played with in the Discord server. So I think you were early. You've influenced and kind of helped onboard a bunch of people. So that's pretty neat as well. Good to see you here.
Yep. And since I'm on a public platform, I'd say like really thanks to the tournament organizers, especially John and Josh here, for running this, and not just this event, but keeping the community alive for Unmatched over the past year. I think that's really amazing. I know it's a lot of effort. Don't get out, because I think the Unmatched scene is probably going to explode quite a lot in the next year or so with all new characters, Marvel stuff. We're going to get a lot new people in. We're going to get a lot new players in. I mean, we've seen very good new players in this tournament really. Pomet for one, Angelicus also, Stosen, my previous quarterfinal opponent. So all these are new players, but they caught on very quickly, and we're definitely going to see more of these kind of players, and that's going to be amazing because we're just going to see more play styles, more breaking of meta and stuff like that.
It's a great point. A lot of the people who were in our top 8 are relatively new to the game, so it's nice to see new blood come in and take over. Frank, do you have any questions before we go?
Would you like me to ask why I gave Literate Sapidon?
Yes, that was exactly what I was thinking about. Why did you give Little Red Sarpedon? That was it.
Okay, so when this happened, so I actually discussed this quite a lot with Xiaoyi before, on this like Literate and Ingen thing. So he said it was like that's fine, and actually that happened to him in his game against John. So he got his workers puffed immediately, but he had a call for backup, so that was fine for him. But I didn't draw my call for backup until halfway through the deck, and there was actually one thing I could have done, which we also did hit upon. So, but I completely forgot about earlier. So even though you start second as Ingen, if you somehow obviously you don't want to find yourself in that position. I could have easily banned Sapidon, but in your mind you just want to try something. But I wanted to try this map, but I forgot what I wanted to do. So what I wanted to do was that even though I start second, you position all your workers right in the face of Literate. So even if she wants to puff, she will have to boost around the workers to drop a puff. So that gives you a bit of leeway in the sense that if she doesn't have daggers or wild basket in her starting hand, then it's a bit more difficult for her also. But I don't think that will have helped just now because I think he started with the daggers into the wild. So yeah, but that was what I was supposed to do, but didn't execute.
Yeah, that's a
Interesting.
good
So you
thought.
would have kind of blocking those 3 spots off across the bridge there.
Yeah, so you force Literate to run further. But yeah.
Try it next time.
Yeah, right. Is this going to be one of your after action reports? Are you going to do one for this match?
Oh yes. So all 8 matches that I've played so far definitely will be an AAR. I'm just gonna take the time to slowly watch through them. Hopefully try to learn from them. I mean, that's the whole reason why I made those videos. It's really just to analyze it, find the critical mistakes, and yeah. So even my games just now, I could identify my critical mistakes already, especially in the Bigfoot one. Ouch.
Yeah.
I think one of it was that there was one moment where he purposely positioned 2 harpies, such that as if opening for a savagery. So when I went in there, I used a momentous shift instead of a savagery, and he defended with a tree. So if I had used a savagery, that would have taken out 2 of the harpies, and that would have been much harder for him to use the top right corner of Baskerville later on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you have the savagery in hand at the moment?
Yes. So at that point in time, I think I was outplayed by him. So he thought like, okay, I knew you're gonna have a savagery, but he's not gonna play a savagery. I thought he was gonna play a feint actually. So that's why I played the momentous shift. But on hindsight, the momentous shift would have been more important on offense against Medusa, because she most likely won't play a feint against you, and even if it's a hit or slither, at least you get 1 point of damage through, and otherwise you still get 2 points of damage if she plays a tree. So yeah, that was one mistake, because once I realized I left him to take the corner at the top right, I was dead already, because I wouldn't have enough cards to get through the Harpies and do enough damage to Medusa. But if that Cedri put it off, it might have been a bit easier. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, question about if we have time for one more question while we're talking
Yeah.
about the match. I mean, one of the things that we were discussing on the commentary was how we expected it to be kind of like a slugfest, I guess, at least from on the Bigfoot side, and didn't expect it to go to exhaustion. And then John, we heard his comments at the end where that was his strategy the entire time, was to take it to exhaustion. From your perspective, kind of what did you anticipate going into the match? Did you have an idea of how would it go to exhaustion, or you'd be able to try to end it earlier?
Yeah, against Medusa, you probably can expect it to go to exhaustion most of the time, because the thing about Medusa is that she plays a very good controlling game by default. So she just hangs back, runs you out of cards. So by default, it's really most of that already. And it is on the other player to not make mistakes, which I did. So there were a couple of times I tried to draw for a lock, which I should not have. Yeah, those were small mistakes, but they will slowly compound. And yeah, I got greedy at certain points. So yep.
Okay. Frank, Josh, you have anything else you want to ask? Okay. Well, then the last thing I want to do, Sojourne, is I'd love to get a plug for your channel in here. So do you want to talk about what After Action Reports is for anybody watching who may not know?
Okay, so After Action Reports is a channel on YouTube that I started. So the whole idea is very simple. Most of the games that I play online, whether on TTS or Vopper, I will do a recording, and I will do a commentary on the recording after the fact itself. So the whole idea is just to focus on the mistakes, focus on the critical moments of the game, hopefully do a good analysis on them, and learn from it. And hopefully other people can learn from my mistakes too, and yeah, get better at Unmatched.
All right. And they can find those videos on YouTube?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Do you have anything else you want to add, Sojourne?
Joshua, however, I mean, I'm obviously rooting for you in the finals. Good luck playing against your sparring partner. But however it works,
It's gonna be a toss-up.
yeah. However it works, however it pans out, the three of us, you, Seo, and I, let's go out for prata or something.
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thanks so much, Sojourne, and great job. What an incredible journey to get
welcome.
here. Really great. Thanks.
Congrats, nice, good games.
All right. I'll let you have your interview with John now.
Okay. All right. So we'll start interviewing John now, who is the finalist. He's going to go up against his sparring partner, Joshua. John, welcome.
Hi
Welcome
guys.
back.
Thanks a lot.
Congratulations on your big win.
Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I want to just ask you, just casually, is how are you feeling right now?
I'm feeling pretty great, honestly. I was a little bit concerned going into the match. I'm not gonna lie, because he did beat me in the Swiss. So, those losses can come back to haunt you. But I knew it was going to be a little bit different this time, because we weren't doing a no big three agreement. I was going to go, all out, and thankfully it worked out. I mean, it was an interesting pick ban for sure, and I think both of us we didn't make it easy for the other person on the fighter picks and the bans, because obviously when you have two great players, that's just how it works out most of the time. And then it really just comes down to the solid play in the end. And thankfully, I guess I was able to pull it off, and I got a little bit lucky with that game one with Red. Everything was just going my way. So yeah, I mean, going into the match, like I said, I was a little bit concerned, but Sojourne, he's a great player, but I'm pretty confident myself, so I just knew that I had to not, let the nerves get the best of me, just focus on the game and just play well and do the best I can.
Yeah, to your comment about that little Red match, Frank made the observation as we were watching it unfold and we were commentating, made the observation that this was Little Red, who had a really great deck, but then was capitalized and played to maximum efficiency by you. So just kudos there. That was a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it definitely, I got an explosive start, which really, really helped me out. And I could not believe when he placed his workers that he didn't put them up front on the front line like he mentioned. Obviously, it just slipped his mind, but I was very, very thankful. And also, I mulliganed for that card specifically because I did not have a great opening hand and that card wasn't in it. And I was like, please just give me that card and set me off on a explosive start. And I got lucky.
Yeah. Well, we're looking tomorrow at the battle of the tournament organizers. So I really just want to give Josh some time here to pick your brain and learn all of your strategy and your headspace heading into tomorrow.
He already knows.
Josh, you have any questions for your bud?
Well, no, not really. My brain is fried.
No, it's cool. Josh has been up a while. His brain's fried. Plus, I think there's nothing he could ask you strategy-wise that he probably doesn't already know.
That is true.
Frank, do you have any questions for John?
Yeah, I mean, looking at pick bans, we talked to Sojourne about it as well. Were you surprised to see Drac come back banned?
I was a little bit surprised, but kind of not at the same time. I think any of my three could have justified a ban. I think it's pretty obvious that I was going to ban Sherlock because the whole reason I picked Little Red was to counter Bigfoot, seeing as Muldoon was already off the table. And Little Red is also good into Muldoon, at least pretty even. So I was really just looking for relatively even or better matchups across the board. I didn't want to have any glaring weaknesses. So that's why I went with the picks that I did, though I do think that out of any of the potential matchups with Muldoon and Bigfoot, I think Dracula would probably be the weakest into Bigfoot specifically. I think he would do great against Muldoon, but into Bigfoot he could have some problems unless things go really well for Dracula. But that's kind of up to some luck a lot of times with ambushes and whatnot. So I was a little bit surprised to see Dracula, but Bigfoot, I think it's a triangle meta with the big three. So I would say Bigfoot does beat Medusa, and I don't know. It kind of caught me off guard, but on the other hand, I kind of expected him to try something crazy.
Cool. We talked a little bit about the triangle meta, actually, during your match. It was fun to see you upend that and play against what is expected. One thing I wanted to ask you about, if you could expand on this thought a little bit, because we were really fascinated by it. So we were watching the Medusa Bigfoot match, and we were thinking it was going to be this huge slugfest, this big explosive fight. And in your after the match, when you were just talking to Sojourne, you just kind of said from Jump Street, from turn one, you were like, this is the long game, this is an exhaustion game. And we had made multiple comments throughout the game like, this isn't a match that goes to exhaustion. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about the thought process that to you that whole match was about exhaustion.
Sure. So you got to think Bigfoot has the most cancels in the game, right? And Medusa gets mostly all of her damage off of second shot, being boosted with Gaze of Stone up to a 7 value, and she can do that 3 times per game. She also gets ping damage here and there and her momentary glances, but the majority of her damage comes from those second shots. So up against Bigfoot, you can't really rely on those because either it's going to get canceled with one of his many cancel cards, and you might deal 1 damage at most over a feint, or he's going to block with a 4, and you're only going to deal 3 damage, which if you times that by 3, you pull it off every time, that's only 9 damage out of Bigfoot's 16. So where are you going to get the rest of your damage, right? You have 2 damage from momentary glance, times 2 would make 4 more, so that's up to 13. But past that, you really have to get some ping damage in there to finish off the game, and that's if your second shots don't get canceled. If even one of them gets canceled, your damage output is drastically reduced. So really, there's no other way to win that matchup, I don't think, other than playing to exhaustion. You don't boost your second shots, which is a little counterintuitive, but you need to save the Gaze of Stones as a threat for the very, very end game, when you can eventually, hopefully, run Bigfoot out of defenses and land that confirmed Gaze for 10 damage, or push him into exhaustion and win that way, which is what I ended up doing. I did expect to end the game with a Gaze of Stone, and it actually got to exhaustion faster because, like he mentioned, he started drawing too much with his ability a couple of times, and that pushed it to exhaustion a little early. But the overall plan was to hit him with the Gaze of Stone after every single other defense was gone, and I could confirm the hit.
One thing in the Twitch chat earlier from our commentary this morning, somebody brought up that you were in the suit and tie instead of the tank top, and somebody said, "Oh, it'll be a Jekyll and Hyde switch. Just wait." So it's great to see you in your Hyde get up tonight. I'm sure everybody is very appreciative of it.
Yeah, awesome. That's such a great comparison there.
It's great. I think it was Snuggles who made the comment, but I can't guarantee. I don't remember that 100% properly.
No, that's awesome. Very fitting, seeing how much I love Jekyll and Hyde. Maybe we'll get to see a little bit of him tomorrow. We'll see.
Is that a little tease for us?
You're gonna have to watch and find out.
Mind games begin. You love to see it.
You'll love to see it.
Absolutely. Cool. Frank, do you have any more questions for John?
I think I'm good. I don't have any.
Okay. Josh, I won't put you on the spot. I know you said you're super exhausted, but one thing I'd love, John, before you went, if you could talk a little bit about your channel, what you do, what you've done for Unmatched. I know you've got the YouTube, you've got the Twitch. If you want to talk about that a little bit and tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, so I mean, I do have the YouTube channel. It's just zeroskatr12, and I do a variety of content. I do some playtesting guild videos, which are I showcase a custom deck, made by the fans, and I play a couple games on stream. I do a discussion about the deck, and that's really cool because I feel like that's a part of the community that doesn't. It's almost separate from like the competitive scene. In a way, so I like to cater to the whole community rather than just competitive players. So I try and do those for them, and it's actually a lot of fun. I get surprised every time when I play the deck how fun these decks are that people create. And then I also do I have like a tier list video, and I do some competitive gameplay videos, and I want to start making more like strategy guides and things of that nature to really just help convey more knowledge for competitive play out to people. And I'll get to those eventually, but it's a lot of work doing the YouTube stuff, so definitely have respect for all the content creators out there. And with the Twitch, I mean, I've been streaming all my tournament matches and doing some practice streams where I've just been trying to get people on for games, whoever is up for it, and help them practice for the tournament while that was going on. So I'll continue to stream maybe casual games, Weekend Warriors, all kinds of games, just more Unmatched. So yeah, you can just find the YouTube is just zeroskatr12. The Twitch is twitch.tv/zeroskatr12. So it's pretty easy to find that stuff.
I don't think it can be overstated how much your efforts through all those videos have meant to the community, and how much it's helped it grow, mature, learn, get to the point where it is now, where we had over 80 entrants to this tournament. We had more than we were able to fulfill, and I think that's in no small part to the work you've done on social media with your accounts.
Yeah, well,
so
thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody who supports it all. I wouldn't do it if it weren't for you guys. So as long as people are enjoying it and they want more, I'll do my best to keep it coming.
Awesome. In the immortal words of my ancestors, you love to see it. So
you love to see it. Love that.
All right. Awesome. John, do you have anything else to add?
I just want to thank all you guys for commentating while I was busy playing, and looks like you're going to be doing some more of it tomorrow. So I'm really excited, and it's just going to be an awesome finals, and who knows what's going to happen. It's a new format we're venturing into with the best of 5 instead of 3, which means we're going to have 4 fighters instead of 3 on each side with 1 ban, and so we're going to have more blind pick matchups. So I think just getting lucky matchups might really make a difference in who wins, but I also think getting just a well-rounded lineup in general that can kind of handle a variety of matchups is going to be key. So it's going to be very interesting, and just thank you guys again for commentating and helping me out with that while I'm playing, and thanks to everybody watching too. This whole thing has just been amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it was a joy. I think we all had a blast doing this.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it.
Thanks
Hopefully
for letting
I
us
gave you
be
a good
part of it.
match.
Oh yeah, and we got another big one lined up for tomorrow. So
Yep.
exciting.
That's exciting.
Looking forward to
Cool.
it.
Well, thanks so much, John.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Go get some rest.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
no time for
both of
rest.
you.
I got a
Yeah.
plan for my match tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, congrats to you on the win today, and Josh as well. Now that you're both on.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to the match
We're
tomorrow.
looking forward to it.
Definitely. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. All right. Well, there you have it. Round 2 of the semifinals are done. We have our finalists. We've got Joshua Tan and John zeroskatr12 heading out to the grand finals tomorrow, which will be streamed at this channel at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm super excited. I'm really looking forward to it. Before I get into all my thank yous and additional plugs, is there anything you guys want to add here?
No, I mean, I would just say, my compliments to the tournament organizers. You talked about John's contributions and Josh's, obviously, in the communities. I think I did a quick count. There are players from 12 different time zones playing in this tournament. So it's really interesting. It's not only 80 people, but it really has a global reach, and that can create logistical challenges, but it also is just a reflection of, making connections and really promoting the game on a global scale. So that's really a neat comment. So just kudos to everyone who works really hard to make this what it is.
Love that. Absolutely. Anything from you, Josh?
You mentioned who's commentating for the grand finals now that two of the previous commentators are playing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Prospero's hosting, and I believe Frank and myself are back tomorrow. Is Sojourne going to be the 4th? We're going to do 4 commentators tomorrow instead of the usual 3. We're trying out something new for the new format. I think it's Sojourne.
For anyone who doesn't know, Prospero is the winner of the previous tournament, so star quality right there.
Absolutely. We're going to get some really nice shots of his trophy. I'm really excited about that.
He's promised good costumes as well, right?
Yes, he has. We're putting that on the record. Prospero, if you're watching, he promised good costumes.
Signed up.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys. I really want to thank the tournament organizers as well, Gary, John, Joshua. This is like such a cool experience. Before the tournaments, I didn't play with anybody in the community, and now here I am on video commentating the finals with you guys. I mean, that's just like all due to the work you guys did with the tournament, making it so easy, the community being so great and so awesome. So I can't thank you enough. I've never been involved in anything like this before, and this is just such an awesome thing. So thanks, Josh, since you're right here. And then also want to shout out to Restoration Games, obviously. Thank you for making this amazing game. Thank you for sponsoring this tournament. If you guys watching haven't already, you should join the Restoration Games Discord. That's where we get lots of great strategy, lots of unmatched talk, some fun reveals. Also, that's the greatest place to meet people, to play online some friendly matches. That's how a lot of us met. So that's the Restoration Games Discord. Additionally, thanks to the Vorpal team. That program we used to play today was on Vorpal, so if you saw it and if you liked it, you liked what you saw, there is going to be a link for that in the Twitch channel. If you want to sign up and support them, we definitely recommend it. We do get a little kickback if you do support them, so that supports us. So it's a huge win for the channel. Additionally, earlier this morning, I thought it was really great that John gave a shout out to Discord users Darth Cowley and Poindexter G for being so open and so flexible and hosting and streaming a lot of players' matches, people who didn't stream before. And so I know that gratitude meant a lot coming from John as the tournament organizer. I just want to double down and reiterate that as a player, as somebody who, like I'd stated before, was pretty sheltered, just getting to watch everybody have fun and watch these matches and learn a lot from everybody was an invaluable experience to me. And I know from talking to others that it was also an invaluable experience to them. So thanks again. Huge kudos, huge shout out to you. That's Darth Cowley and Poindexter G. We're super thankful for that. So tomorrow, 9 a.m., grand finals. Joshua Tan, zeroskatr12, John. It's going to be one to remember. It's going to be best of 5. New untested format, and we're gonna have 4 commentators. So lots to look forward to. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Central. Be there or be square. I'd love to see it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow.